the Dolphins Jets game by any chance?
Yeah, they should have kept Zach Wilson in there because that offense sputtered a lot more with him out of the game than with him in the game. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
even score again till like the fourth quarter.
And everyone kept saying how bad Zach Wilson is. Zach Wilson may not be the best quarterback in the world. I'll give them that. But there are
Mm-hmm.
much more problems with the Jets.
Yeah, that offensive line, and there's just a multitude of things that's going wrong with that team. They're the most crestfallen franchise, arguably, in history.
All right, we're gonna get into that in just a second. But what's up, folks? It's your boy Sports PSP. Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast. Got my boy Undisputed World Champ, always a great friend. Does a lot of great content, TikTok, Instagram, whatever social media platform he's on. Go follow him. How you doing, man?
Doing good today. Happy belated Thanksgiving. Happy Black Friday, brother.
And we got my boy Leaf in the building. Leaf, for the record, we only going to discuss NFL stuff, not because I don't want to. It's just that I ain't got that much time to discuss about that. So let me send you the link right here. But anyway, man, let's talk about some football. We dived into it a little bit. The Dolphins versus Jets game. Your thoughts on the game, man? Dolphins just beat them. What's your take, champ?
I think that if I'm just gonna be very, very honest because both offense sputtered a little bit, but the Jets offense sputtered a hell of a lot. And if you really want me to be honest, they just should have kept Zach Wilson and kept him where he is because I have never seen an offense sputter like that through 3 quarters ever in my life, regardless of who the quarterback was. And the way the Jets offense just sputtered like that, it was like watching a bad college game, a bad Division 3 game, and that's how horrible it was. On the other hand, Miami shot themselves. They underestimated their opponent. They shot themselves in the foot a lot. Tua with the turnovers and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been it could have been a better game, but hey, Miami Dolphins was able to. You had to really watch that game because the box score is not going to tell you the story. Miami struggled. The New York Jets struggled even more, and that's how that game was what it was. But on a higher note, Tyreek is one step closer to 2,000 yards. I think he has like 1,300 yards right about now. Not to mention Jaden Waddle. Not to mention Jaden Waddle had a big game as well, and that running
Mm-hmm.
game is looking pretty good as well. But like I said, the offense. I don't think they. I really think the Dolphins played down to their competition. They didn't play up to their speed.
Yeah, I thought overall it was a sloppy game on both sides of the field. But anyway, we got Leaf in the building. Leaf, can you hear us, dog?
Yes, I definitely can, man. Happy holidays, man. Happy
Happy
thankful
holidays.
to y'all, man. I'm not too much into the word Thanksgiving, man. I call it just that one of the last Thursdays of November. Just to try to avoid the saying the holiday, but definitely happy holidays to you, gentlemen. I definitely came up here to talk football. I wanted to speak on the events that happened around the hours of between 3 to 6 o'clock yesterday. But since we on the Jets, I will speak definitely to champ sentiment. It was definitely an ugly game. It was a piece of trash game from two piece of trash teams. Obviously one piece of trash in the Jets, man. I'm being because they always panic. And they always come down to the decisions of they are the masters of panic. They're one of the historically they're one of the worst teams going into to half the second half of the season, specifically in November. They start to panic easily, and then once they start to see the quarterback their quarterbacks playing badly. I've seen this episode of Friends so many times. I seen it back then when they had Vinny Testaverde, and I seen it back then when they had Mark Sanchez, and now I'm seeing it again now that they have Zach Wilson. They just don't really believe in there's no real room for error, especially with the New York media and with everything that's surrounding the Jets, and mostly with surrounding the Jets and the Giants. Man, with these New York medias, they tend to panic, and that's what they do. They're the masters of panic. They look both ways like they're crossing the street. As soon as something bad happens, man, and then they start panicking, and then they start digging themselves into more and more quicksand. Miami played like ass too. Nobody really takes them. I don't really take them seriously. Now that the second half of the season is here, because it's pretty much a war of attrition with Miami. I think they came into came in the earlier season one of the fastest offenses, and they've been able to be slowed down. On a high note, to co-sign basically what Champ was saying, Tyreek Hill is basically making his way to 2,000 yards. I think the quarterback play as an entire whole is probably a D plus this year. So therefore, I won't be surprised if somebody that's not a quarterback wins MVP this year. It's just been an automatic certified shit show from the quarterbacks, from most of the quarterbacks this year. Man, they've absolutely been disgusting. They've been gross.
I think it's been pretty good.
I think it's been mid at best. If we're talking about week to week in terms of the quarterbacks that's came into the season top tier, every last one of them has had shit show games. We watched Justin Herbert get outplayed by Jordan Love last week, which I'm proud of. But and then again, if Justin Herbert's supposed to be a top 5 quarterback,
and Jordan Love outplayed Jared Goff on Thanksgiving.
Hey,
Yes,
Jordan
yeah,
Love.
that's
Hey,
it.
I was right about Jordan Love, but I'll say that for another time.
Well, the thing about Jordan Love, what he has now is actually a ground game. The ground attack is a little bit more balanced. With guys like AJ Dillon and the multiple backs that we have, and outside of Aaron Jones, when you're Matt LaFleur, you're able to you have to stick to that ground game. Once you get away from the ground game and you try to turn Jordan Love into a water wine type of quarterback, then he starts to struggle, and then he starts to get tired. He gets exhausted. He gets burned out. He has better pocket presence than that. He has better poise than that. Once he has support from the running game, then he could do a lot of damage. The defense can make strides too. Everything all falls together. It's like a domino effect with our team.
Yeah,
And
you're the youngest team in the league. Youngest team in the league.
yes, we are. So if you're telling me, no disrespect to C.J. Stroud, but if C.J. Stroud is has been the best quarterback for all the way up to this point of the season, but what does that really say about the top 5 quarterbacks that came into the season with top 5 expectations and looking at expectations to grow their games and grow their quarterback play? That basically is a smack in the face to them, bro. Like that a rookie is basically outperforming most of them. But no disrespect to CJ Stroud. I'm not getting off my point. The bottom line is Jets is a shit show. They will continue to be a shit show. I called it before the season. They just don't do anything come down to November. The Lions, the Detroit Lions may have lost the I'm probably saying it early. They may have lost the North Division, the NFC North Division yesterday. That was an absolute terrible performance. They basically,
we're gonna get into the Packers Lions game in just a second. We just want to talk about the Dolphins and Jets.
Yeah, my bad. But yeah, the Jets was a shit show. Miami is mid. That's about it. Tyreek Hill for MVP, by the way. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. What up, Dev?
Hello,
what's your thoughts on the game?
Da Vinci.
How you doing? Undisputed Leaf and host and founder of the Sports PSP podcast, known as Sports PSP. Be sure to follow him, follow Undisputed Champ, and follow Leaf Diggy. So this game, complete domination. I'm excited. Honestly, I'm gonna lie. I'm excited that Tyreek Hill is gonna make history. Like the fact we're gonna experience someone to go for 2,000 yards and it's actually kind of insane. So I went with the over him getting 70 yards. He delivered. Jalen Waddle also had him again. I think people forget there's another dog in that team, another speedster receiver in Jalen Waddle, who, in my opinion, could be a number 1 on some teams. Or he's one of the best receivers. He's a top 20 receiver, maybe top 15, top 25. He's in that tier range. Tua looks good as well. The Dolphins, they're making good strides going to the playoffs. This is a great win they needed. Another, loss for the Jets, and kind of unfortunate for them. It's just an unfortunate loss for the Jets because it all happened for the injury of Aaron Rodgers. You had all these hopes and aspirations, and then in week 1, it kind of just goes away. So, as the New York Jets, what do you do? What's going forward? Like, who do you find at quarterback? It's just a lot of mystery with the Jets. It's kind of like the Clippers situation. That's what the Jets are kind of in. They're like the Clippers right now. Like, the star players keep getting injured. They have these hopes and aspirations. They have a great defense. And I do feel bad for the Jets fans. I feel bad for them. But going forward, I think this is a good win for the Dolphins to keep their heads up in the division. and see, and not only that, they could fight for a 1 seed because they only have 3 losses, right?
Yeah, they have 3 losses. They lost to the Bills, in which the Bills embarrassed them. They lost to the Eagles on Sunday Night Football, and they also lost to the Chiefs.
Yeah, so that in my opinion, that home field advantage is something that the Dolphins will most likely need. So
yes,
that's why I think they need it because right now
they don't want to deal with that cold.
Yeah,
they don't want to deal with that cold.
Because like if they have to face Baltimore, go to Kansas City, if they got to go to anywhere, they're losing, and they got to go away. I think they're losing. So I think them aiming for that 1 seed is very important.
Like I said, overall, it was just sloppy game. I mean, to Champ's point, the score was it doesn't put it into full context. It was actually a lot closer game. I will give Champ a lot of credit. He has raved about Zach Wilson's maturity. 2 things could be true. Do I think Zach Wilson is the quarterback for them moving forward? Hell no. Aaron Rodgers should sit this one out this season with the Achilles. He will be 40 years old in December 3rd. And how's he going to be moving forward next season? So if I'm the Jets, I have to think about getting a quarterback. I really do have to think about getting the quarterback. The question is, who? I mean, you're not getting Caleb Williams. You're not getting Drake May. Who are you going to get? Michael Penix Jr., and he has durability issues.
I don't think they can get him either.
Bo Nix? Who else that you could possibly think of? Champ, go ahead.
Quick question to the entire panel. Doesn't it seem like this in New York? And I just want to point this out. Doesn't it seem like in New York, the team that has won the most Super Bowls in New York, the New York Giants, they don't succumb to media pressure. They never do. They just stay in their lane. They stay the course. And even if they make a bad decision, they stay the course. But it seems like the Jets do. It seems like they succumb to the media pressure every single year, even though you haven't won anything.
Right.
Well, both been
you want to say something?
Well, Champ, I can tell you from experience, both the Giants and the Jets succumb to media pressure. The difference between the Giants is the Giants just sometimes get lucky, and they may hit lightning in the bottle with some of these Super Bowls that they won. I tell people about Eli Manning all the time. Even a broken clock is right at least 2 times a day. So the thing is, the Giants succumb to it just like the Jets do, especially with post and pre Tom Coughlin era. You know, like if you want to go as back as far as the Parcells era,
maybe that's not, what I'm speaking of.
Yeah. Okay, maybe then it's not that big of a deal. And even with Parcells was on the Jets, they didn't panic neither. But
and even with Jim Fossil, they didn't succumb to the. You remember Jim Fossil, don't you?
I'm sadly I do. Oh God, yeah.
He took them to the Super Bowl, I would say, but he didn't succumb to media pressure like everybody else did.
I would like to forget that he took them to the Super Bowl, man. I don't want to be reminded of that again.
That's the but that was the 2000 Ravens. I mean, that team was on a roll.
Yeah, that is a team that we'll probably never ever see again, and I don't want to ever hear Jim Fossil's name ever again. But the reason why I say it always comes down to management, and it always comes down to ownership and management and how they like to put these yes men in place. The thing is, like, since the owner of the Jets died back in '99, I think his name was Woody. If I'm not mistaken, Woody Johnson, he died. Since then, this franchise has been basically shaky as hell. If I'm not mistaken, his name was Woody Johnson, but his name was Woody something. I don't remember. But I'm seeing the same thing with a lot of New York teams, but specifically with the Jets and the Giants, they begin to panic very, very fast. The thing is, the sky is falling, and you
mean Leon Hess, Leaf? Leon
Hess. Yeah, that's what it was. Damn, why did I say it? Why did I say Woody? Because I thought Woody was the oldest. That's why. It just seemed like an old guy that passed away. But since that passing, it seems like very few people that's come forth in this organization over those years has even made an attempt to building a solid football team. And don't get me wrong, we could talk about the Mark Sanchez Swiss cheese ass and AFC championship runs.
Back-to-back years.
Yeah, back-to-back AFC championship runs, which both ended in disaster. We could talk about how the Jets made an AFC championship appearance back when they still had Curtis Martin, and they lost to Denver some years back. But the bottom line is, this team can panic and panic well. Listen, statistically and historically speaking, once the month of November hits, the losses start to pile up. You could go as far as back as you want to go for the Jets, bro. I'm telling you, they are a shit show. The second that November pops up, they are.
I did like Dev's comparison of the Clippers, though.
I hated that comparison. I hated that comparison because it's kind of a slap in the face to like at least what the Clippers were trying to attempt. I don't think the Jets were really trying to attempt too much of anything by picking up a 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers. I seen this episode of Friends before, PSP. They picked up.
I know, but what does that tell you about Zach Wilson after 2 years when he was drafted? You know, if you look back at that draft, Leaf, there was other quarterbacks, Mac Jones. There was Justin Fields. Imagine if they were in the circumstances in New York. Do I believe they would have done better than Zach Wilson? Yes. And yes, the Jets, they haven't been back to a playoffs since 2010. So unfortunately, the Jets, man, they're cursed. They are just cursed, man. But only time will tell what's going to happen. Des says he's going to be right back, but Leaf, I'm going to let you go first on this one. The Thanksgiving game, Packers and Lions. Lions were predicted to win this one. The Packers got their revenge. After what happened Thursday Night Football, Jordan Love played exceptionally well, made some big-time throws. Rashawn Gary went after Jared Goff's ass in that game. What are your thoughts about the victory? And you mentioned that Detroit, they could lose the NFC North. How do you feel, man?
Detroit is another team. They consistently after November, specifically after Thanksgiving, they continue to fall and bust their lip. Outside of last year when they went on that run where they was like just getting hot and starting to win games. Dan Campbell is a great presence, but sometimes he could get a little cocky with the going for it on fourth downs and the things of that nature, man. I think yesterday's game, they got hit in the mouth, and they deserve to get hit in the mouth because they deserve to get hit in the mouth, man, by trying to show the team up and showing up on the division game on that type of day, thinking that they was just gonna walk all over us, man, and they wasn't. The real reality was we were supposed to beat them Thursday night. We was making a comeback, but it led to Walker getting a penalty and moving them down into the red zone range, and then that was basically murder. We missed the field goal, and then red zone we tried to get a 2-point conversion on something like that. If I had to remember about that game, but my mind's kind of blurry. The fact of the matter is, everything that we did yesterday actually worked, and it worked because the running game for the Green Bay Packers is now visible again. Because when you come into the season with a run attack like a Aaron Jones, like a AJ Dillon, and all the other backs that we had to back that up, you have to feature it. And when it was featured, you've seen that obviously Jordan Love, who is a much better pocket presence than a lot of people give him credit for, and a much better reserve presence once he has that going for him, and once the defense is actually showing up, he could do a lot of things, and he could sit back and be comfortable. He's a much better pocket presence. I would like to see him improv a little bit once plays start to break down, but he's definitely a much better pocket presence than a lot of people give him credit for. As far as the Detroit Lions go, they better stop playing with their food, because the thing is that they're another team after November that could slip and fall and just blow it, and then basically the fumble this entire season. I've seen it before. These is episodes that we all seen before. If you want to know why the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns have not been to the Super Bowl, because it's small in the NFL, there's this much room for error. There's this much room for error. So when you take trash ass organizations like them and the Browns and the New York Jets, there's very, very small room for error. You basically have to be pitch perfect
The same as the Philadelphia Eagles, who struggled a long time to win their Super Bowl, and the same as the Kansas City Chiefs, who struggled a long time to win their Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? So that, like, it's a lot of teams that's basically have very, very small room for error. They can't afford to have games like this happen. They gotta finish. They gotta finish off this season and finish it off strong. This division is still wide open.
All right, before I let Champ go on, my man Patrick L. Brown from the Grid Network, go check out his articles and stuff. This is what he said. The Lions did the most Detroit thing and lost on Turkey Day. Not to mention, Jack Harlow's halftime show was terrible.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah,
was. That shit was embarrassing. Yeah,
It was
I don't know why they
embarrassing.
had him out there. He don't belong there.
And
I think he's had a fall.
And he took a shot. Dallas won. Ratings, halftime, and game loved it. Patrick, yeah, we don't want to hear about the Cowboys
Yeah, we don't.
until later on.
Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, I love Patrick. He does a great job with the Grid, but I can't stand Cowboy fans. He's a good dude though. But Champ, what you thought about the game between the Packers and the Lions?
I want to point out a historic fact before I move forward. Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, Don Mikowski, and now Jordan Love. Does anybody realize before none of those guys went to the playoffs their first year?
Right.
I do realize that.
Now Jordan Love has the opportunity to go to the playoffs the first year. Not so sure how successful he's going to be, but with the exception of Brett Favre, only one of those guys made the playoffs, had at least a winning record his first year in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So when people don't realize Green Bay is the only team one of the few teams I will say, they draft to develop. And they actually develop their talent. That's like when you see that talent come, it rarely leaves. You rarely see those guys leave in free agency. But on another note, I will say this. I said earlier in the year that Detroit will not be tested all year. They haven't been really, and every time they face a team, even remotely, with playoff aspiration, they have got drugged. They have got drugged. Baltimore. They got drugged today. They got drugged by the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh my God.
So
38-6.
And I was and hey, you saw it on my page when I said, hey, they're not going to be tested all year. They might be fraud. I said they might be fraud. People got on to me all day long about the Detroit Lions. But like I told them earlier, they're not playing high caliber teams. They're not in the NFC East. They're not playing the Philadelphia Eagles every single week. They're not beating great teams. You'll schedule one thing about making the playoffs and make the Super Bowl. We have a thing that I always say. Me and my father have a thing. You have to beat the teams you are supposed to beat. You have to beat the teams you are supposed to beat. You can't go into these games going slow as molasses because you think you have a chance to get back into the game. NFL don't work like that. You can do that in college. You can't go out here and get off to these slow starts thinking that you're going to be out here slow as molasses thinking that you have a chance to get back in the game. That's not the case. Mm-hmm. And the Green Bay Packers proved that today. And my thing is, I had Detroit. Detroit will go to the playoffs, but it's all going to depend on them if you're going to be out in the first round. I don't see them going past the divisional round, if that.
Right. I love that part, Champ. You also, I'm surprised you didn't mention Nature Boy Ric Flair. To be the man, you gotta beat the man. And Detroit, they are a talented team. I like what Dan Campbell has done, but when you seen them gone up against legit opponents, early this season they lost to Seattle, but it was pretty close. They got their ass smacked by the Baltimore Ravens, in which Lamar Jackson
that was brutal.
Yeah,
torched them up. Hold on. Got another comment from my man Patrick Brown. He said, once Green Bay jumped out on Detroit early, I knew it was going to be a blowout. In all truthfulness, should have been that and then some. Yeah. I mean, there were opportunities, Leaf, in that game, that 4th and 1. Uh-huh. It was just miscommunication with Jordan Love bumped into the running back. But
Yeah.
overall, Green Bay, they just whooped Detroit's ass in that one. And Detroit's defense, they ain't that good. They are just not that good defensively.
Yeah, definitely not. They Detroit, they defense. I thought they was going to make strides in the right direction with Hutchinson and the crew, on their defense end, but defensively, they've been outclassed for most, if not all, of the year. Just this Detroit is there's very little margin for error when you don't beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. In our case, I came into this season a modest Packer fan by acknowledging that the Lions were going to be the class of the division. And now I'm starting to see the same old Lions Thanksgiving and all the way down the road that I've seen in years past. And that the difference between this Lions team and the past Lions team, this Lions team is actually capable. Those Lions teams in the past weren't that capable. You know what I'm saying? Like when I think of the combination of a Jared Goff and all the guys that they have on offense and the Dan Campbell running the show, this team is capable of doing some things. But at the same time, to jump to Champ's point, I feel as if the NFL, you really only have to beat one contender, especially if you take care of the regular season and you do what you're supposed to do in the regular season and you get some type of home field advantage in the regular season. You only have to really beat one contender. It's basically like once you have the opportunity to, like, when you have an opportunity to have 3 losses and win the rest of your games of the regular season and have that bye and get a shot at that bye week, you have to seize it, especially now there's 7 teams in each conference in the playoffs, as opposed to it being 6 in the past years, where it's 2 teams in each conference get a bye, and as opposed to 1, because now 1 team in each conference gets a bye. And if you Detroit, you got to be looking at that, because if you step foot outside that damn building after November, knowing you got shaky legs, knowing that Detroit logo that you have on your chest is not bouted, come January, you gonna be it. Listen, you do not want to be going outside of that building outside once the playoffs come. That's just me, and I'm pretty sure Lions fans know this, because they've seen the shit show that I've been watching for over the years. And it's one of the reasons why teams like the Lions, teams like the Browns ain't never been to a Super Bowl, because there's very little margin for error. Very little. You got to seize the moment. You got to seize these opportunities, because you might not never have it again as if you did Detroit Lions.
All right, Patrick, continue. Detroit's test won't come until December 30th in Dallas. A lot to play for, and we'll see who Detroit really is. It's a Saturday night game and a celebration for Jimmy Johnson, of course, because he's in the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor, deservedly so.
They
He
may
also
get tested next week, though. They have to go to the NFC South.
No, the champ. We're gonna get into that in just a second with Dallas.
So I apologize.
No, it's all good. And he also continued, Detroit can still win the division, but they have to take care of business and win the games you're supposed to win any given Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. Oh, I'm sorry, the games he mentioned.
Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys, since it's his team and since with the Washington Commanders. Dallas won that one 45-10. It was a lot closer before Dallas scored 25 points. It was 20-10 at one point. The Commanders got their ass whooped. Dak Prescott threw for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns in that game. Of course, y'all heard the news. Ron Rivera has fired Jack Del Rio, the former defensive coordinator of the Commanders, as well as the DB's coach. I'm going to give more credit to the Cowboys, regardless of the fact how bad the Commanders have been all season long defensively. I knew that the Cowboys were going to win this one because leading into the game, the Commanders were 32nd in team defense. They were 31st in passing defense. Only the Los Angeles Chargers had a worse passing defense than them. They were 22nd in rush defense. They were dead last in scoring defense, and they've given up the most points per game. This team is atrocious. I tried to tell you, man, this is not a playoff caliber team. And the fact that they fired Jack Del Rio is a sign of things to come, because Ron Rivera's ass is going to be out the door. Do I think he should be fired now? No. After this season. Also, there have been Commanders fans that have talked about firing EB. Why would you fire him after year one of the season? There are much more problems with the Commanders. Their offensive line is atrocious. Sam Howell. Do I think he is a franchise quarterback? Probably not. But he is a top 15, top 18 quarterback in the NFL. He's shown us some flashes, but we'll see. There have been a lot of problems with this Washington organization. This is the first year with Josh Harris and Magic Johnson. But Ron Rivera's ass better get fired, because this is not the guy for us moving forward. Martin Mayhew, the GM, no. I do not want him as the GM anymore. Look, I'm going to give Dallas credit where it's due. They did what they were supposed to do. They beat down an embarrassing team. DeRon Bland has now the most pick sixes in an NFL season. Correct me if I'm wrong, champ. Dallas Cowboys just embarrassed the Washington Commanders. All I could say for the Commanders at this point, you look at these last 6 games that they got. They got the Dolphins next week. Then they got the Rams. Then they got the Jets. Then they got the 49ers. They got the Cowboys in the season finale. And just end the season already. They're going to end up 5-12, 4-13 at best. Look something to look forward to. Get yourself some offensive linemen. Get yourself some defensive pass rushers, which is why we had to trade Chase Young and Montez Sweat. We couldn't keep them. Champ told me about it. Look, we end up getting draft picks. We end up getting $90 million to save up in cap space. So that's something to look forward to for the Commanders. The season is over. They're a shit show. I'm done. I'm tired of this embarrassment, this joke of a franchise. They're a fucking disgrace. I am trying my best to maintain my composure, primarily because my cousin's daughter is in the back sleeping, and I don't want to disturb her and wake her up. So I'm going to do my best to maintain my composure. In the end, Washington is a shit show. Leaf, go ahead.
You did try to tell me early in the season. You reverted that sentiment. You talked about how Ron Rivera needs to be out the door early on this season, weeks ago. I didn't really hear much about Jack Del Rio, but you was very adamant about Ron Rivera needs to be out the door, and
Yes.
Eric Bieniemy deserves to run this team at some point. I did not see the trades that were coming. I don't think I've talked to you since that time, or even before that time when the trades was made. You were very avid about those trades. You were very avid about the people, the Chase and
Montez Sweat.
Montez. You were very avid about what you wanted for those trades. Basically, the Commanders basically gave that up for 2 bags of Doritos. Yeah, man. It's gotten from bad to worse.
Doritos? You mean Fritos?
Yeah, the Fritos, the corn chips, basically, not the Doritos. Doritos, I love Doritos. They're absolutely awesome. But you told me, and I refused to listen. I was going off of like how you guys were known to be, because you talked about them not having an offensive line. Historically, y'all always had an offensive line. If y'all didn't have anything else, y'all had an offensive line in the running game, and y'all. Yeah, and the Hawks, and even after the Hawks years, you go to the Roy Halou years, and you go to all the years where y'all was switching running backs in and out, and y'all have running backs going crazy. You go back to the years when y'all had Fletcher, what was it, London Fletcher, I believe.
The middle linebacker.
Yeah, the middle linebacker, and y'all linebacker core was like actually pretty decent during those years. So y'all always had competent defensive players, or a competent line, and a competent running game. It's just other things that were missing, maybe some wideouts, some deep threats. Quarterback position has always been in the shambles for many years.
Don't forget about Chris Samuels.
Chris Samuels, yeah, Chris Samuels. One of the most important things the Washington Commanders probably have the longest drought of any team that has won a playoff game in the NFL. If I'm not mistaken.
2005. That is the last time we won a playoff game. And also, the only good thing, if you're a Commanders fan, was I think her name was Jackie Taylor. For those who may not know, she is the daughter of the late great Sean Taylor.
Sean Taylor, man. R.I.P. Man. One of the obviously one of the best secondary players that we've ever seen in our lifetime. I mean, and what he was on his way to being at that safety position, man. Like just a hard-nosed player, man, and was taken off this earth way too early. Definitely, and but this game, I'm not giving no credit to the Dallas Cowboys. Fuck them.
Because it was a bad football team and they're at home.
Well, not only that, but because of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that and because of the Dallas Cowboys and so many other reasons, man. We don't believe in Dakota. We don't believe in nothing he's doing.
We'll get into Dakota in just a we'll get into Dak in just
yeah. But to get into Dallas a little bit more, to dig down deep down the road, they have to. It's almost a given that they're probably going to end the season well, but I don't expect them to do it in the postseason because they're the Cowboys. What can happen will happen.
Right.
Champ, you know this. PSP, you know this as a Washington fan. So we just gotta wait for the shit show. The Dallas Cowboys to me are the Boston Celtics of the NFL. Listen, we all know it's gonna happen. Just gotta wait for it. And you just gotta sit tight, because they will fail you. And they will fail all of their fans, and they will fail all of Texas and all of the Dallas Cowboys fans galore. And they will fail Mr. Patrick Brown, who's been in the chat. They will fail everybody because they're failures, and that's what they do. The same with the 49ers. I don't believe in them neither. They're another joke of a team that's going to get in the playoffs and start to shit the bed. You just got to wait for it. Oh, no, I'm done.
I think PSP having some technical difficulties a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Technical I'm sorry, my family using the Wi-Fi at the house, but let me tell you something. It got so bad, I almost skipped my Thanksgiving dinner. After I saw the score, I'm like, fuck this. I'm not eating this food. But because Mama calmed me down and said, baby, please eat your food. Please eat your food. Out of deference to her, I ate the meal. But I threw up afterwards. I threw up. Not because the meal wasn't bad. I was disgusted by that game.
That was a terrible display. I'm mad you watched it, bro. I would have turned it off right off the rip. I'm not watching. We listen, as a football fan, I don't think any fan should be subjected to any shit show, especially when they know the shit show is going to happen. So like if you know beforehand, turn the game off. Enjoy your food. Enjoy.
I was watching Netflix, Hulu afterwards. Shit, yes. That's all I did after that game. I wanted to skip my Thanksgiving meal. Unfortunately, I ate the meal and threw up.
Because the fact that you made it through that game, bro, like it's surprising to me.
And then what was worse afterwards, I ended up the night drinking. So I tried to get every bottle of alcohol I could get.
Oh man.
And then but go ahead, champ. I know you got a lot to say.
To be honest with you, this is to be expected this year. I have to be honest with you. And you have to, I will say, give the team grace. I will say, and I know that is a strong sentiment, but this is the first year under ownership.
Yes.
You finally got the nightmare of an owner that you had for so many years with Dan Snyder. You finally got him out of there. So basically these next couple years is going to be Magic Johnson and that new ownership undoing the mess that he did. When you think about all the bad free agent signings that he had, you have to applaud the man for spending the money, willing to try to make the team better, but some of those free agent signings were flat out garbage.
Albert Haynesworth.
Not even that. I will say this. That is the one that is most notable.
No,
But
that's one that's the top of the list, but there's a lot more. There's a lot
Adam
more.
Archer. I mean, he signed Adam Archuleta. You already had Ryan Clark, who was a Super Bowl winner with the Steelers.
Thank you.
I mean, how gullible can you be as an owner?
And he also signed Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith, but they were way past their prime.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Snyder has basically.
Not only that, the Dana Stubblefield. I mean, signing. I know he would. People always want to overrate Sean Springs, but he was just fast. He was good, but he wasn't worth all of that money.
Not at all.
They was trying to, with Sean Springs. This is the first year outside of that nightmare. And like I said, this new ownership has their work cut out for Magic and the new owner. I'm not so sure what that new owner's name is outside of Magic Johnson.
Josh Harris.
Josh Harris, Mr. Harris, has his work cut out for him because they're going to spend the next couple of years basically undoing the disasters that Rob Snyder, not just on the field. People think, yes,
but in the allure of that team, and Dan Snyder has ran the circus on this franchise, man. Ringling Brothers tip, man, like literally, like he has done y'all a great disservice over the years. This is pretty much like when Bush got out of office and Obama got reelected. Like this is almost similar to that. And cleaning. It's no glory in cleaning up nobody's shit. Trust me, it's no glory in it.
They're gonna have to do a lot of work on and off the field. I'm talking about in that front office. Remember all those allegations that they had in the front office,
man.
Remember some of the players that were under indictments? Ruben Foster, Darius Juice, Geis, whatever the hell his name is.
Darius Geis, I think.
But I mean, these were promising players, but because you didn't check the character issues that these players had, the franchise. You got to remember this. People remember the 49ers for the 80s. The Washington Commanders were the epitome of the 80s because they was beating the 49ers in order to get to the Super Bowl.
They sure was.
With three different quarterbacks.
And they made history too because Doug Williams, first African American quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Even before that, Bobby Mitchell was the first black player on that team.
Mm-hmm.
That was
a lot of rich history on that.
That was a well-run organization during that time in the 80s and the 90s. They were one of those teams that could definitely hold afloat, and especially back in the old days of the NFC East.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you just look at them; they just they're embarrassments. Sorry if I'm interrupting y'all. I need another bottle of Di Serrano or some wine, man. Because
try not to go to the bottom, man. Listen, it's some dark days.
No, I'm trying not to, but listen. Magic Johnson, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Josh Harris, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Do I see this moving forward? No. And Patrick responded. He said 20-10 felt closer than it should have. To say I was antsy is an understatement. Washington were still a dangerous team, and they thought until the fourth quarter explosion. Or you mean the fourth quarter debacle? And then he also said, I've been a Cowboys fan since 1991, bleeding blue and silver to my core, Cowboys Nation until the very end, 100. We're going to get into the Cowboys in just later second, Patrick, about Dak Prescott.
We need not.
But I will say this, man, about the Commanders. Magic Johnson is going to do something. Magic Johnson is pissed. He is not going to tolerate this.
I would like to add on to something. I elect Eric Bieniemy as the head coach of this team, man. Like it's to the point where it kind of needs to happen, and I think, man, it's pretty much it's obvious. I think everybody in the league, everybody around the league can see it. Everybody in the league can see it. Everybody around the organization can see it, man. Like once Ron Rivera is gone, and then you could finally hand the keys to Eric Bieniemy. And he can finally get his just due. I'm seeing what Antonio Pierce is doing for the Raiders. Just just a lot of good feeling in that locker room now, man. They're just good energy, you know. Like he even mentioned it. He said something that really stuck out to me, and he said the guys on the practice team, they're part of this team too. They're part of this team too. They on the sidelines every day. They putting in the work and practice every day. They just don't play. I hope this to make them work harder so they actually get to play and they can actually earn their stripes and earn their keeps, man. But I think it's some dark days right now, but yeah, it's gonna be on the up and up. Magic Johnson is at his first year. The problematic thing is just cleaning up everything and getting Ron Rivera out there. First thing you got to do is get his monkey ass out. You got to get his ass out, and then try to get Eric Bieniemy the spot that he deserves. That he's earned the right to be on that sideline, and he's earned the right to be earn the keys to that franchise. They said Clinton Portis, Santana Moss, Ryan Kerrigan. They definitely did. Yeah, they definitely did represent that with pride. Clinton Portis, he got ran to death by one of the most. He got ran to death by the Tom Thibodeau of the NFL, which was what was the coach for Denver? Forgot his name.
Shanahan.
Yeah, Shanahan. Mike Shanahan. He is the Tom Thibodeau of the NFL. He was because he ran to death.
There was some very prominent players on this team, but it's going to take some time. I think once free agency comes, they have to address some pass rushes. They definitely got to get some O-line. You got to figure out a way to protect Sam Howell. I think in order for me to I like what I see with Sam Howell. He leads the NFL in passing yards, has 18 touchdown passes, 17 touchdown passes to only 13 interceptions. I like him. I think he's the best quarterback that we've had since Kirk Cousins, even though that's not much to brag about. But we have to keep him because if we lose him, then who else are we going to have? And with that offensive line, as Champ has said numerous times, quarterback can't throw on his back. And he's getting constantly hit.
Yes,
he's like the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. Now, in fairness to the offensive line, he holds on to the football a little too long. But that offensive line, they haven't done a good job protecting him. They have not.
That is a fact, and I think it first starts with a valuable running game to basically keep everything afloat.
They got Brian Robinson, and Champ and I, we've discussed this. He's an X factor. If you include him more, you do that.
But yeah, it's gonna take it. Yeah, definitely. That's my point exactly, and that was my point with my team. And I think the consistency is going to start with the running attack. Once you establish a visible running game. Then your quarterback could stay afloat. Your quarterback could make strides and make plays down the stretch of games and do certain things. You mentioned Kirk Cousins, man. When Kirk Cousins was there, he actually kept that team competitive even after the post RG3 year, 3 years, I guess if you want to call it, man. And he kept that team afloat. They were competitive.
He had 3 consecutive seasons of over 4,000 yards. His first year as a starter, he helped the Commanders win the division. My man Patrick said trading for Bill Belichick wouldn't be wise either. If Washington ever entertains it, buyer beware because Bill brings in the same staff from New England. Yes, I said it before, Patrick. I agree. Bill Belichick should not be the head coach for New England. And Leaf, I got one right here for you. You know how I would compare Bill Belichick going to Washington? Basketball one. Phil Jackson to the New York Knicks.
Oh, God.
And let me tell you why. Because Phil Jackson is an 11-time champion as a head coach, arguably the GOAT. Bill Belichick is the greatest head coach of all time. But the problem with Bill Belichick, he hasn't evolved with the times. If you bring him on, he's going to be the head coach, but he wants final say. With the 53-man roster, he's going to operate things. Y'all talk about... Commanders fans, y'all talk about firing EB. Okay, let EB walk out the door. You want Bill Belichick to hire Josh McDaniels and Bill O'Brien? And you talk about how they've depleted Mac Jones. Go ahead. Do what you do with Sam Howell. See how that's going to work out.
I want to stop this right here and say, hell no to anything Bill Belichick related. To anything Spygate related, to any gate related. We ain't don't bring no gates to no other team Eric Bieniemy deserves this job. I'm pretty sure a lot of like fans around the league and a lot of well-minded Washington Commander fans believe that Eric Bieniemy deserves this shot. He has earned the right to be on that sideline, and I think he's earned the right to at least give him a shot to the keys to this franchise and to see how he does at the head coaching position. It has to start in this offseason. It's going to be a long offseason, especially for a lot of teams that ain't going into the playoffs.
Champ, I'm going to let you have the last word before we move on to Dak.
Go ahead, Champ.
Should EB be the head coach, or should the Commanders hire Belichick?
The Commanders should certainly not hire Bill Belichick because, number one, it's going to cost you draft picks in the future that you don't need to trade.
No, we don't.
You don't need to trade. And I will say this, and I don't know if I said this on your pod last week or on another pod. Forgive me for not remembering. But these teams have got to stop retreading these dad blame coaches. Once their run is over, it's over.
That's right.
Let the new guys come in and make their mark. And even if they fail, you keep giving guys like Josh McDaniels, who had his credentials was there to be. He had more credentials to be he had as many credentials as it was to be a head coach as I did to be a personal trainer. I'm 300 pounds right now.
I know some 300 pounds.
And my thing is, he had no business being a head coach. You saw it, and the thing is, this came out before the season. That DJ Williams from the University of Miami, Pro Bowler, that said they was cheating when he played for the Denver Broncos. Was that not a warning sign? You got rid of the first thing he did is he went there and got rid of Brandon Marshall, went in there and got rid of Jay Cutler, the franchise quarterback and their franchise wide receiver. That's the first thing that he did. After Mike Shanahan warned him the year before, hey, whoever's coming in, do not bust up this offense. That was not their fault. We didn't have a great defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. These teams are trying to retread these, especially and I could understand if these were Bill Walsh's coaching trees. If this was guys from Bill Walsh's coaching tree, the Dennis Greens, the Mike Holmgrens, the Andy Reeds, those guys like that, I could understand giving them because they're proven. But they have got to stop giving these coaches that has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're not the salt and the bread second chances. It makes no sense. Eric Bieniemy should be the head coach of this team. And not only that, and if he's looking for an offensive coordinator, one just got fired down there in Tampa Bay. Go get Byron Leftwich. Guys who have proven that they can win and go to Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Byron Leftwich won one with Tom Brady down there in
2020.
Yes.
We don't count that.
So he won one down there. Mm-hmm. And hell, he helped Jameis Winston lead the league in passing. Although he threw 30 interceptions, but we're not going to go there. But he helped him lead. But even with Jameis Winston leading the league in interceptions, he helped to lead them to a high-powered offense.
5,000 yards, 30. He was second in the NFL in touchdown passes, only behind Lamar Jackson, who won the MVP unanimously. Yeah.
So go down there, get some new blood in there. Stop hiding these Bill Belichick retreads who hasn't proven to do anything. They did about as much on the field to prove they was a head coach as I have in the gym this year. Nothing. So stop retreading these coaches. Stop bringing back these guys that you think, oh yeah, this is going to be the guy in order to turn it around when he's done nothing for either team he's been on. Bring in these new coaches with new philosophy that's going to get you over the hump. That's all I have to say about that.
Period. All right. Let's see a comment right here before we move on. Would Champ entertain EB coming to Atlanta if Arthur Smith is fired after this season? Even with uncertainty at quarterback, would he be all for it?
Champ? Oh, shit.
Hey, like would I entertain it? Do bear shit in the woods? Hell yeah. I
Of
would
course
most
you
certainly
would.
love,
Oh,
and knowing that
shit.
we have a chance to get a good quarterback for the future, knowing that Arthur Smith is about to be out of there next year, I would love for Eric Bieniemy to come there. Look at the pieces that we have on that team. Those are building blocks.
Desmond Ritter is sure not cutting it. But
Yeah,
I
he's
will-
not going to come back. So we're going to draft a quarterback or get somebody in free agency. Mainly, I know that we're probably looking at Kirk Cousins, but that's neither here nor there. I would prefer
I don't know
to
if
get
you
a
want
younger
Kirk Cousins
quarterback.
after the Achilles champ.
No.
No,
You don't want
but
him
I
out
don't want, like I said, I want a young quarterback that could grow with
Mhm.
the franchise.
Right,
You're probably going to
That's
go
the-
forward with Justin Fields or someone in the draft.
Yes,
Probably. Yeah,
we get somebody in there young so the coach can have a stronghold on it.
definitely. I would say, listen, and I definitely went off a limb when I said the Atlanta Falcons was not only going to win the division this year, but they was going to host the NFC Championship game. That's clearly dying, very very slowly. But I do like Bijan, even though I think Carter was basically stolen from y'all. I think y'all was going to take Carter if the Philadelphia Eagles didn't see him. But I do like Bijan, and I do like
to
the
get out of the state of Georgia, brother. I keep telling everybody that
There was more things. There was a lot more things than was reported.
Gordon.
Oh yeah. I'm
he
aware
had to
that
get
was-
out of the state of Georgia. I will say this: a different environment for certain athletes are definitely, you have to get out. You have to be like AJ Green was supposed to. It was supposed to be AJ Green instead of Julio Jones.
Right. Yeah, it was.
But those guys needed to be out of the state of Georgia. When you are in a familiar environment, you tend to do things that you wouldn't normally do if you weren't away from home. So,
All right.
Yeah.
Champ,
especially with Georgia, for sure.
Champ, I really don't want to do this. After this comment from Agrarius Williams, he's one of my subscribers. 2024 coaching cycle will be crazy. Definitely will. Champ is not gonna love this. This is what my man Patrick L. Brown mentioned.
What's that?
Should the Falcons trade for Kyler?
no.
And also,
God.
Falcons trade for Kyler and get EB as their head
No.
coach.
Here's my thing. Stop.
Why you don't want
retraining.
Kyler? Why? All right.
Number
just give me
one, I don't
full legitimate reason why you don't want Kyler.
Number one, I want a younger quarterback. I want a young quarterback, fresh out the draft, so the coach can develop. And number two, I don't want Kyler simply because of the reason of this. I don't know the legitimacy of that contract situation. Neither one of us know. But if they put it in your contract, it was there for a reason. And I've said this time and time again. I have said this so many times that I've actually gained weight in between the times I've said it. If you cannot concentrate in Arizona, where MMA guys go to train, I would look. If that was one place I could go to train for at least a year and get my Goku on, it would be Arizona. That heat, the elevation, that is a prime place to train because they have some of the best trainers money can buy in Arizona in the entire state. Guys go there far and wide. You got Greg Jackson that trains the great John Jones, the Rashad Evanses of the world. You have some of the best trainers out there, and a lot of even Jamarcus Russell, when he was trying to get ready for a comeback, went to Arizona in order to train. But if you cannot concentrate in that environment, then how can you concentrate in an environment like in Atlanta? You realize how many distractions are in Atlanta? And not to mention, you have to think about this. You got to think about this. You have to think about this as well. How many you just got out of cap hell with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones? In fact, we just got through playing Roddy White from what I'm just seeing. And
Roddy White been robbing y'all for years.
So, we
just got that contract off.
Yes, we just got through paying those guys. Why do you want to go back into cap hell? That's why when we was going after the massage master, I didn't understand that either. You get yourself out of cap hell with Matt Ryan, and like I said, that's the reason why we was able to get a Jesse Bates. Because Matt Ryan was no longer under contract with that huge contract.
I heard y'all was in the Lamar sweepstakes at some point.
We were in the, and that would have made more sense. He's a former league MVP, and he's a young quarterback.
All right.
He's a young quarterback, and like I said, hey, this is Atlanta. A guy like Lamar, read between the lines, he would have thrived in Atlanta.
Oh, absolutely.
Read
Absolutely.
between the lines.
100%. 100%. It's no doubt in my mind.
It would have been the second coming of Michael Vick.
For
Especially
sure.
him winning league MVP.
For sure.
I think, Champ, you wanted him because at that time he didn't have a huge contract like Kyler did at the time, and there was reports about trading him. So,
and there was reports about trading him. And not only that, like I said, you don't want to go into cap hell. Atlanta, people might not believe it, but Atlanta is not this large market. We do not get free agents like that all the time. I know that surprises a lot of people, but we haven't gotten a huge free agent, except for maybe John Abraham from the New York Jets. All these free agents, the Ray Edwards of the world, a lot of the free agencies that we've gotten from other teams have been bust. Some of the trades, the Peerless Price trade was a bust. So when you have a chance with a franchise like Atlanta, in order to get quarterbacks like you have now in the draft, and to develop players that you already have, you have to stick to your guns. Because the last thing you need to do is enter cap hell and spend all your draft picks on somebody who's not going to work out.
All right. Patrick L. Brown said Michael Penix Jr. will be the safe pick out of all the quarterbacks unless you wait for Shedeur in 2024. You'll likely have to get one if he's there. I don't know if Champ is interested. I mean, because we talked about Michael Penix Jr. with his durability history.
To be honest with you, if I'm Atlanta and I draft, depending on where I am, I'm going to get some help on that offensive line. Quarterback can't throw. Like I said, I don't know what it. Hey, I probably because I played offensive line, I realized how important offensive line is. Quarterback can't throw on his back, and you've seen some of the most mediocre quarterbacks. We have seen them have some great seasons behind some great offensive line. And if you don't believe that, look at Case Keenum and what he did before Kirk Cousins got there. Had a good offense. Look at what Dak Prescott is doing. Look at what Dak Prescott did his first year. Look at
Rich Gannon.
Yes, look at what Rich Gannon did. Hell, look at Troy Aikman's entire damn career. He didn't even throw for 20 touchdowns but one time. Had that superb offensive line. Look at
superb offensive line.
Look at your franchise, PSP. Throughout the 80s. That offensive line
makes stacked with O-lines.
Great O lines, man. Some of the greatest O lines in probably the history of football, O-line, with the hog years and going all the way into even like with in them early the years with RG3 when you had Ray Halou in the running game.
Hey, man, you can have some of the. I will tell you this because this has happened in Atlanta. You can have some of the best skilled players known to man. One year we had Bad Moon Rising. We had Michael Hayes. We was running the red gun, aka the run and shoot offense, but we did not make the playoffs because of that offensive line. You have to have that line, and you have to have it stabilized. Hey, why does it get the line gets very, very little praise, but the quarterback gets all the great ones.
The left tackle from Penn State is going to be gone in the first 5 picks, and Atlanta trades up to get him.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. You want a good lineman? Hey, SEC's full of them.
Yeah,
and Georgia, hey, and I don't know what the Atlanta Falcons deal is outside of with Jalen Carter. I can understand he had to get out of the state of Georgia, but with some of the picks that we have let get away from Georgia when they're right in our backyard, mainly with Jarvis Jones, Noshawn Marino, and some of those guys like that we let get away for even lesser guys. Hey, I mean, letting Todd Gurley get away for Vic Beasley.
Jesus. Oh, man. I'll never forget that.
Todd Gurley get away for Vic Beasley. Mathematics stuff ain't adding up.
Yeah, that I don't like that math at all. Even though Vic Beasley, I thought Vic Beasley was okay, but to let that rock for Todd Gurley, that's it's hard to come back from that, man. Like that, it's a lot of recovery with a lot of these franchises, man. Like it's some dumb bonehead plays in the front office, and it's going to take a lot to recover. I mean, at least as a Packers fan, I know one thing. Outside of Devontae Adams, bro, like we haven't made too many blunders in the front office. We probably let guys get away from in terms of being traded from another team that we had trades for. Khalil Mack name surfaced up. We all see how that's turning out. But yeah, man, like it's a lot of franchises, man. Like you can see why they shuffle the cards and then get guys up out of there real quick. But the NFL is it's one of those leagues where you can hold down a job for too long and shit the bed for a lot, man. Like,
all right, folks, let's talk about Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott played well yesterday. He had 4 touchdown passes. The topic is Dak Prescott for MVP. Man, let's look at Dak Prescott's numbers throughout the season. Right now, if you look at Dak Prescott, according to these numbers that I checked here on StatMuse and also on Pro Football Reference, he's number 1 in touchdown passes. He's 23 touchdowns. He's 4th in passing yards, nearly 3,000. He's 2nd in completion percentage at 70%. Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers is above him. He's 2nd in QBR, 75.4. Only Brock Purdy is above him. He's 2nd in passer rating. Only Brock Purdy is above him. The past 5 games, he has thrown 17 touchdown passes to only 2 interceptions, a 70.6 completion percentage, throwing for over 1,600 yards, averaging 324 passing yards per game, as well as a 124.8 passer rating. So, look, Dak Prescott, the knock on him, unfortunately, is that he's had 3 losses. One against the Arizona Cardinals on the road, in which the Cardinals were a huge favorite. The Cowboys were a huge favorites to win that one, but they lost. Let's not forget the Sunday Night Football game against the 49ers, in which they got embarrassed, and at Lincoln Financial Field against the Philadelphia Eagles, in which Dak played great in that game, but unfortunately, they couldn't get the job done. So, Leaf, I'm going to let you go first. And also, too, Dallas, they got 6 games. I'm not saying Dak Prescott is the MVP, but he does have a chance because here are their next 6 games. They got Seattle this upcoming Thursday on Amazon Prime. They got Philly, Sunday Night Football. They got Buffalo, Miami, and Detroit. So you're talking about 5 televised games, nationally televised games, and they got Washington at Washington to end the season. So, Leaf, I'm going to let you go first. Should Dak belong in the MVP conversation? Yes or no?
With these numbers, he should belong in there because we had used the cases for C.J. Stroud belonging in the MVP case when he was in it for the weeks that he put together and the weeks that he continues to put together. Dak is playing pretty well this season, but even though it's the Cowboys, even though I know they're gonna shit the bed sometime soon. Dak is playing pretty well. I mean, I think this is probably been one of his best seasons thus far. Being top in a lot of these categories, man. I think definitely on the up and up. He's been a little bit more than manageable. Even with the injury that they had on defense earlier this year, I didn't really expect Denver to really. Dallas to really to have the season that they're continuing to have, but they are, though. I mean, they probably the third, flirting with the 3rd or 4th best team in the NFC outside of I guess the competition right now is Detroit, the 49ers and the Eagles. But he should be in the MVP race. But then again, I won't be surprised if nobody at the quarterback position.
All right. Casual from the Hoopsters podcast. Casual, I told you I'm gonna do football. What's up, man?
Oh no, I just came just so I could just say whatever OG says I agree with.
Thank you, Casual, as usual.
Of course, OG, okay. All right, I'm out. Bye, guys.
All right, take it easy,
All right,
Casual,
happy
and go
Thanksgiving.
check him out. Go check out the Hoopsters podcast, man. Always a pleasure having Casual on, man. Another comment. Patrick, I already mentioned it. Deron Bland has been a godsend. Another Will McClay draft home run in 2022. Yes. I also mentioned that he broke the record for the most pick sixes. That was a big steal. Champ, you wanted to mention about Dak Prescott. You thought about doing a video on Dak Prescott for the MVP case. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. I think that he has a legitimate case, and it's not just because he plays for the Dallas Cowboys. If you really look at it, and I'm looking at it right now, the Dallas Cowboys has averaged at least 33 points in each of their last home wins.
Mm-hmm. And they've been dominant at home.
And they have been dominant at home. So they have been dominant at home. And if you really look at it, outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, who's in their division, the NFC is pretty much wide open. There's really no, outside of really Philadelphia, there's no real clear-cut team that's going to be coming out of the NFC that really scares us. So you have to think about that as well. I will say the Cowboys, 49ers, Eagles. Those are the only team that is really scary in the NFC. I don't think the Detroit Lions are, after this performance, I don't think they're up there as much as they were the prior weeks, which we had a conversation about that. But by the numbers, should he be considered? Yes, but I'm going to be very, very honest. I don't think the media is going to let him, even if he leads the league in every statistical category. Basically because of what him and the Cowboys have proven to us in the past. He's not going to go very far in the playoffs. And not to mention, you have to ask yourself this. Is this, they know this is not the true Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
They know Dak Prescott can be the turnover machine. If you really look at some of those wins that he's had, they've been against fairly mediocre teams. They've been against fairly mediocre teams. They weren't able to beat the 49ers. Although they played well against the Philadelphia Eagles, they weren't able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. The teams that they've scored a lot against were the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the Patriots, the Rams, the Giants, and the Panthers, not to mention the Commanders. None of those teams are going anywhere fast if you really want to be honest about it. So they're not, and he's not going up against any top 5 defenses anytime soon other than the Philadelphia Eagles. So will they give it to him? I doubt it, because they basically know that this is not the real black Dak Prescott. Once he get into those playoffs and those lights shine brightly, he'll fold up like an accordion.
So, Champ, who is your MVP at this moment? You could argue Jalen Hurts. You could argue, I mean, I would love to see Tyreek Hill win it, but they're not going to give it to a non-quarterback. CJ, I would love to see CJ win it because I raved that he was going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and the Texans, they've played well. I think he's the clear-cut favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. DeMeco Ryans could make the case for Coach of the Year, but they're not going to give it to a rookie. So who do you think it should be?
Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Right now, he has 16 touchdowns, and he's on pace to have a Priest Holmes type of year. Not only that, he's scheduled to go for over 2,000 yards from scrimmage if he keeps this pace up right. And if you look at those 3 losses, and I think I pointed this out in the video I made earlier, each time he touches the ball for 20 times or more, the 49ers win. Those 3 games, when they lost 3 straight, he didn't touch the ball. He touched the ball each time under 20 times. Each time that he touched the ball over 20 times in those games, the San Francisco 49ers have come out with a win. So he's essentially become the Marshall. Remember how unstoppable the St. Louis Rams were when Marshall Faulk would get the ball? Each time they rushed, he rushed for 100 yards and touched the ball over 20 times. The Rams won the game. That's essentially what Christian McCaffrey has become to the San Francisco 49ers this year. You want to win the ball, you want to win the ball game, give Christian McCaffrey the ball 20 times, especially with that zone blocking offense.
We got my man Brandon from the block. Brandon, what's up, dog? How you doing, man?
Yo, what up? What up? Doing good.
Good, man. We just talking about MVP. Do you think Dak Prescott should be the favorite to win the MVP, or if not, who do you have winning the MVP?
I think he's in the conversation.
Okay, in the conversation.
But people gonna say that he ain't an MVP candidate and all this type stuff because he's Dak.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, he deserves to be in there. He been balling this year.
Who's your MVP?
I know Leaf ain't gonna like this, but he playing like a top 10 quarterback, bro. Not even gonna lie, bro. Like no.
Leaf gave him his credit. He gave him his due.
Mm-hmm.
But who's your
I
MVP,
definitely
Brandon?
did give him his due, unwillingly, but I definitely had to give him his due, knowing that this is probably not the real Dak Prescott, but it is the Dak Prescott that we're seeing right now. Dak Prescott performing the way that he's performing just basically speaks to the quarterback play as a whole this year. It's been mid-tier at best. I think we've all discussed that, not just on this channel, but on Brandon's channel as well. Tyreek Hill, I would like for Tyreek Hill to be the MVP, but I think narrative and a lot of the back and forth is going to play into that. So we just got to see.
Leave, we can't hear you, dog.
Yeah, that Hawk out there.
My bad. I'm in the street right now, but
is it raining out there? Shit.
No. It's windy.
That's that Hawk, man.
Yeah, it's windy. Yeah. I'm about to get in the car in a second, but I think Tyreek Hill should get it, man. He's due.
All right.
My MVP is Lamar.
I would love to give it to Lamar, but let's not forget, man, we can't ignore the Cleveland game. We can't ignore that. And I don't know if he's been putting up the numbers. Champ, what do you say about that, man?
I don't think he's been putting up the numbers right about now. I mean, if you really want to make the case, Dak has been putting up better numbers. Like I said, the MVP is going to be basically, you can put Dak Prescott up there as far as the MVP candidacy is concerned because he has the numbers to back him up. But like I said, at the same time, the voters know that this is not the real Dak Prescott. As far as Lamar Jackson is concerned, right now he's 13th in the league in passing yards. So do we really want to call that the MVP numbers right about now? I don't think so. But I will say this, like I said, they know this is not the real Dak Prescott. And if they give him the MVP, this is probably going to be the earliest MVP exit from the playoffs probably ever. So I don't even think. And also, it's going to really depend on who they play in the first round of the playoffs as well, because we already know that the Dallas Cowboys are not going to win in that division.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're going to have to go outside. They're going to have to play 4 games on the road, and they're going to have to play 3 games on the road. And I don't see them winning any of those games on the road at this point, especially with them not playing in the friendly confines of Jerry World. But like I said, I think even if he ends up leading the league in passing in every statistical category, it will probably go to someone else because they're going to say this is the real Dak Prescott.
All right. Something you can make an argument for Jalen Hurts, even though that he's been struggling taking care of the football. The Eagles are still 9-1. They've beaten teams like the Dolphins. They beat the Chiefs at Monday Night Football after coming back from a 10-point deficit. His only bad game was, of course, the game they lost against the New York Jets, in which he was awful in that game.
Mm-hmm.
If Jalen Hurts even sniffed this award, bro, like all hell is gonna break loose. All hell is gonna break loose because
I don't think they're gonna be mad at that because last year he was on pace to win the MVP before the injury, and then Mahomes won it. So, and you mentioned this quarterback play, it hasn't been great. You know, Patrick Mahomes has been struggling, and that's because of the wide receivers. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Champ, the Chiefs, they have the most drop passes in the NFL at this point, if I'm not mistaken, or they're amongst one of the
Yeah.
worst the teams with the drop passes. You saw that on full display against the Eagles Monday night, especially with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You look at the other quarterbacks. Lamar's not putting up crazy spectacular numbers, and also too, the defense with Baltimore, they've been dominant all season long. So it's really tough to say, but I would love to see C-Mac or Tyreek win it, especially Tyreek, because what he's about to do, he's on pace to get 2K. So, and I give Trey a lot of credit from Player's Choice, and also he was on his brother's podcast, Trent, Flag on the Play. Go check him out, like and subscribe. He said, if you're not going to give it to Tyreek, given what he's about to do is unprecedented, then you're doing the NFL, you're doing us a huge disservice. So I think what Tyreek has been doing, I would love to see him win it, but unfortunately, it's going to be a quarterback award. So I don't know, but unfortunately,
I don't know. Maybe the tide might change this year. It's a possibility. I mean,
I hope so. I mean, because the last person to win the MVP that was a non-quarterback, you got to go back to Adrian Peterson back in 2012.
Right.
And then
I think CMC's case is very strong as well, with the 49ers still hanging afloat. And even after the skid that they had, but his case is still pretty strong. I think him and Tyreek Hill, I don't think they can easily be ignored this year, man. But we got to see what type of votes and what type of bias and what type of unbiased that we're going to get this year from the voting tree. So.
One last thing before I move on to, unfortunately, Brandon Seahawks. Patrick Brown said, if Jalen Hurts wins it, I'm going to be pissed off, a Cowboy fan. I'll never hear the end of it. I can't phantom an Eagles player winning anything, even though years before they won a Super Bowl. But
yeah, and Nick Foles won Super Bowl MVP. Yeah.
But anyway, let's talk about, unfortunately, Brandon, I'm going to let you go first. The Thursday night game, 49ers, Seahawks. 49ers won this one 31-13. It was a long day for the Seahawks offense. The spectacular play I saw was Jackson Smith-Njigba, that spectacular one-handed catch. Brandon, your thoughts on the game and your Seahawks moving forward?
Go ahead with the clip. This will be a clip right here. I already know.
But, you know it is.
Oh man. You know how people like they fire you know how people fire like offensive coordinators, coaches, and all this type stuff. Pete Carroll's not the problem. Geno is not even the problem. Shane Waldron, our offensive coordinator, needs to go. I can't even put it all on Geno because, like, what are these plays that they doing? What are they doing, bro? It makes no sense. Why the heck you doing a shotgun play on 4th and 1? A shotgun play on 4th and 1. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to me, bro. It really don't, bro. And
sound like the Chargers, huh?
Here we go with this. But anyways, but yeah, Geno ain't playing like he was last year, but we still winning games with him. So I don't want to hear him writing back stuff. I don't want to hear that because he ain't playing like he was with the Jets. I mean, he playing bad, but it's not like he was with the Jets.
No, he was a lot worse with the Jets.
But yeah, my only concern is, bro, we got all these weapons like JSN, Lockett, and all these boys. Why is Geno still passing the ball to DK Metcalf? Why he still passing the ball? A lot of the throws go to DK Metcalf, which I don't understand. When we got playmakers like JSN, and Tyler Lockett, it makes no sense, bro. It really don't, bro. But we got to fire Shane Waldron, bro. We really do. We really do. If we want to make a playoff run, we got to fire our offensive coordinator. Defense, I'm not even worried about at all. I'm not. But yeah.
All right. Champ.
To be honest with you, Hey, you can blame the offensive coordinator all you want to, but eventually, when you are a mediocre quarterback, the league catches up to you. You saw that with Case Keenum. You've seen quarterbacks have brilliant years. We've seen it. We've seen some of the worst of them have brilliant years. Maybe a brilliant year or two. But eventually, the league catches up with you. You have to be honest with yourself. I mean, Geno comes into the Seahawks with a lot of weapons, better coaching, a better team. But like I said, you can only mask a quarterback so long. Yes, we're proud of you for that big year that you had last year, leading the Seahawks to the playoffs. But like I said, eventually the league catches up with you. And I think the league can caught up with Geno Smith, especially in that division where you have to play those top-tier defensive players. I mean, we saw what happened to him in the first game when he balled it up like an ant in front of Aaron Donald.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was clipped all over. Like, oh my God! I mean, do you really want your quarterback to go into a panic like that when you see their one of the greatest defensive players of all time enter his domain, or do you want to see him embrace that challenge? But like I said, the league to call up the Geno Smith offensive coordinator. Here's what I feel. Why is it when these quarterbacks lose, we want to blame everybody except the quarterback? Isn't that
Let's
a good
not
question?
do this, champ. Let's not do.
We blame the offensive coordinator. We blame the offensive line. We blame the running back. We blame the head coaches. We blame his mama. But we don't blame the quarterback for playing bad.
Okay. So, champ, watch this. So, champ, why everybody was talking about Kellen Moore was the I don't even think Kellen Moore was really the problem with the Dallas Cowboys. People was talking about it was Dak Prescott to blame. He balling right now.
Yeah. He's one out of a few. But the thing is, all of these coordinators whose quarterbacks get fired. Think about Matt Canada got fired, which deservedly so. But is Little Hands Cody? Is he really the answer for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Oh no, not Kenny Pickett. No, heck no.
You got to ask yourself with Josh Allen. Love Josh Allen, the modern day Brett Favre. Ken Dorsey got fired, but guess what? Guess who's throwing the interceptions? It's Josh Allen.
But
so all of these coordinators, everybody wants to give the quarterbacks the wins and the loss. Everybody wants to give the quarterback the glory, but when it's time to give them accountability, they don't want to give it to them. We want to blame everybody else. We want to blame the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator. We want to blame the fact that they don't have a top 5 defense. We want to put all of these intangibles in order, but we don't want to blame the quarterback.
He deserves some of the blame. The quarterback does deserve more than some of the blame.
Yes, he deserves more than some of the blame. And we have to stop looking at, the coordinator, this, that. People got to understand you're going to have different management. NFL is no different than any other job. You're going to have many different other managers. You can't blame the coordinator if you're not a good quarterback to begin with. If you are a turnover machine as a quarterback, it doesn't matter who is your coach. You're going to be a turnover machine. Like the point I brought up last week, although Brett Favre had Mike Holmgren at the beginning of his career, he was still top 5 in interceptions nearly every year. If you're a turnover machine, you're a turnover machine.
Right.
All right. So, Champ, here's my go ahead, Brandon.
Before we move on to wherever, I would like to say, but we go draft a quarterback this year.
I was gonna get into that, Brandon. And
yeah. My two that I would love, Michael Penix, and my Oregon Duck quarterback, Bodacious Bo Nix.
But Chimp, here's the thing. To Brandon's point, yes, we've seen Geno Smith. We saw his body of work with the Jets. We've seen his body of work throughout his career. But the Seahawks, they gave him a 3-year deal. If it had not been for the Colts, they probably would have drafted Anthony Richardson. Instead, one spot after the Colts, they drafted Devin Witherspoon, who's played very well this season. I mean, definitely in discussion for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
So, my thing is, Champ, Brandon mentioned draft a quarterback. Would you do it, given Geno Smith his age and more?
Yes. And my thing is, it will keep. I'm all about the salary cap. Hey, Geno Smith contract about to go out in about 2 more years. Let's get him under the Let's get under the cap and start developing a quarterback. And Michael Penix is probably the perfect person to do it. He's right in your backyard.
Yep.
You ain't got to go far in order
He's
to
in
get it.
Washington.
Matter of fact, you can ride your bike down there in order to get it. So he's not far. And I would even go with Bo Nix in this offense. He's mobile, he's agile, and I think he would do wonderful in Pete Carroll's system. You're coming in with good weapons. You're coming in with a guy like DK Metcalf that you could get the ball to. Hey, as much as I don't like Bo Nix because he once played for Auburn, I'm a Georgia fan. Hey, he's a pretty good quarterback. And he turned the leaf when he went out there to the Pac-12 and proved that he was a Heisman caliber quarterback. And people always want to call him an SEC reject. Didn't he beat Alabama? Didn't he beat the mighty Alabama?
Yes, he did in 2019.
Yes, he did. He beat the mighty Alabama.
And also, people forgotten he was at. Remember, even though he's with Oregon, he beat as a freshman in his debut. You know who he beat, champ?
Yeah,
Oregon, and that was Justin Herbert's final year.
Yes, he beat Alabama at the peak of their power. So guess what? He's not a bad quarterback. It's like Auburn has been the past couple of years. They've been kind of a dumpster fire the past couple of years. It's like they'll have a good year, then they'll have 7 bad years. So that and that's unfortunately the cycle of Auburn at this point. But yeah, you have to. These teams have got to stop making these quarterbacks something that they're not. Sometimes you have game managers that come out, and that's okay. Every quarterback that you draft or take a chance on is not a generational quarterback or the answer long term. Hey, sometimes you put tape on your window in order for you to not get cold at night because you got to sleep in your car because you got a long road trip. Is that the long-term answer rather than just changing out the window? No. You have to change out the window. You just can't duct tape this thing just because you have money invested behind these quarterbacks. And teams need to stop overpaying for these quarterbacks as well. Every quarterback is not a generational quarterback. Justin Herbert.
I think especially, man, if you've seen the body of work.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Giants for an example. They made a mistake with Daniel Jones.
Yes, they made the mistake with Daniel Jones. I'm not going to call Geno Smith had a great year. But guess what? It was 1 year.
Thank you.
You didn't see, and and a great example of that would be the Minnesota Vikings. They knew that Case Keenum was not the long-term answer to their problem at quarterback. Okay, you got to see the NFC Championship. We need to get somebody in here who's going to be able to get us there. Now, has he done a great job statistically? Yes. In the playoffs, not necessarily. But the thing is, teams have to stop overpaying for these quarterbacks, thinking that, this is the answer when it's only good enough for 1 year. Temporary some problems, some quarterbacks are for temporary situations. You have to know when to cut the cord.
But champ, here's the thing. Some of these franchises, man, like they've been spilling the tea, so to speak, man, for so many years that when they get a Case Keenum for a year, or when they get a Geno Smith for the year, bro. Like you got to realize this is Seattle team is post LOB, so they basically looking kind of for anything, realistically, at least at the quarterback position, man. And the way that the quarterback position is managed outside of like the premier quarterbacks in the league, if you don't have that and you have the year that Geno had last year, you want to give it another shot again. You know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily like I understand what you're saying with certain situations, and when they have a certain year, what they can and can't do, and what inefficiencies that they have going forward, and how they're going to be prepared for. But how often do you pull that plug after a year like Geno had or after a year like Case Keenum had? Because I don't think Case Keenum played for Minnesota after that year. That's probably because they didn't sign him. But if I had to say, how often do you pull that plug with the type of years that they had, man? You got to give him another shot, like just to see if he can repeat that type of year.
My thing is this: if you have talent on your team already, you have to ask yourself, is it more so the talent that I have on this team or the quarterback? And if those quarterbacks have been proven to be, for lack of a better term, mediocre, then why would I take a chance on it the very next year in order to do it again? Hey, what you do in 1 year, everybody can have 1 year. We've seen 1 year wonders all over the place. That is the reason why Trent Dilfer was out of Baltimore after his first year, even after winning them a Super Bowl. You saw them pull the plug on him real quick because they realized, hey, we're not going to have this defense that's going to be able to hold guys to 9.4 points a game every single year. So we got to get somebody that's going to be able to surge up that offense.
Right. I understand what you're saying, but in the case of a Geno Smith, partially one of the reasons why they had the year that they had last year was because of him. I mean, whether it was because of the pieces that he had around him or just because of him solely, still he had an effect. So my question is, realistically, when you have that type of year, historically, and it's probably been some years historically where we've seen a Geno Smith type of year with a team like how Seattle had organized last year. How often, realistically, do you really just pull that plug? Do you continue to put the pieces around him so he can be successful to cover up his deficiencies? Because I'm one to believe that what we're doing, I always give this example. What we're doing out in Green Bay, we're adding a running attack, and the running game is visible with a quarterback like a Jordan Love to help him grow, to help him be managed, to help him not overexert himself. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is like when you put those pieces in place out for a la Geno Smith, how often would you pull the plug on that, even knowing what you know about him as a solo act and seeing what you could put around him?
I mean, you have to look at history. I mean, Tommy Maddox came in with 1 year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, took them to the playoffs 1 year. The very next year, he regressed, and they went 6-10. They were able to pull the plug with him on Ben Roethlisberger, and thank God, and they're probably thinking their lucky stars that he dropped to them at the pick number 25. You have to think long-term, especially with the age of a quarterback like a Geno Smith. You have to think long-term. Not just say, okay, this worked last year, it's gonna work this year. I mean, even with the Eagles and Michael Vick, he was out of Philadelphia within 2 years.
He was.
It worked for those 2 years, and then they were smart enough to realize, look, this is not going to work long term. He's older. He's not the Michael Vick of old, although those were his best years. He's not the Michael Vick of old, where he's not as fast as he was when he was in Atlanta. We have to get another quarterback in there. Hey, they were even smart enough to move off of Donovan McNabb before his bad years kicked in. So part of your job is being a coach, a general manager, and or an owner is to knowing when to pull the plug on those guys. Some guys have big years, and we see them over and over again. Hell, Scott Mitchell had a big year for the Detroit Lions. He had a big year for the Detroit Lions. I mean, Rob Johnson, he had big years had a mediocre game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were smart enough to realize, okay, this was one game. Hell, Doug Flutie even took a team to the playoffs, but they were smart enough to realize this is not our answer long term. That's how come they kept going back and forth with him and Rob Johnson, although that was the wrong quarterback for him to be going back and forth with. Yeah, you have to realize long term, is this the answer for my franchise?
I think in terms of what you're saying, I think the only substitution for a quote unquote Geno Smith or like those quarterbacks that you name is younger quarterbacks probably in the draft at some point, because draft is like rounds 1 through 7, man. You never really know what you can find, but the thing is that's what the scouts is there for, and that's what and all of everybody is put in place to find that. But that would to me would be the only logical substitution for a Geno Smith, man. Like, all right, Geno Smith is a little bit older. He's a person in 30s and all of that. It's a young quarterbacks league. Let's get somebody that could come in there and at least we could grow with him. He's healthy enough. He has all the intangibles. He has this, and he has something to work with. That way you could build around him. I understand that, but just giving them away just to give them away, no. I'm not in the business of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you got to give them away with a plan B, C, sometimes a plan D. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that sentiment, but I think you just got to have plans. You got to have backup plans if you decide to pull that switch, to pull that plug on a quote unquote Geno Smith.
All right, folks. Let's move on. Let's do some NFL. No, you know what? Let's do some college football picks. We're gonna get into NFL picks in just a second. We're gonna do some upcoming games. Now, of course, the big one: Ohio State versus Michigan. That is a big game. Of course, the rivalry game. Michigan, the past 2 years, they've finally gotten Ohio State's number, despite the whole controversy with Jim Harbaugh and the sign situation. Champ, who you got winning this one?
Michigan.
Hmm.
I'm just going to be very, very honest. That team is really, really rallying itself behind this controversy. And I think that they're going to rally themselves around to a win. Plus, they're playing in Michigan. They're playing in the big house this year.
And they're 3.5-point favorites.
Yes, they're playing in the big house this year. They're going to find a way to rally around their coach, right or wrong, because you get different reports every day. One report says that they found no evidence against Harbaugh. Some, hey, the Big Ten found evidence, but that's neither here nor there. But I believe the Michigan is going to rally itself around Jim Harbaugh, especially because they want that those ball players want to see their coach in the college football playoffs. Now, how they're going to do in the college football playoffs, depending on the chaos that goes along with it, I don't know. It remains to be seen because last couple of times they went, it has been borderline disastrous.
Yes, it has. Don't remind me because I'm a Michigan fan.
So, yeah, especially when they ran into a bulldog, we bit them. So, with that being said, I think that this team is going to rally around Coach Harbaugh. They're going to have the free Harbaugh T-shirts, and they're going to beat Ohio State once again. And we're going to see how it's going to play out in the playoffs. They're going to make it to the college football playoffs.
It's going to be exciting with that matchup with Marvin Harrison Jr. going up against that DB from Michigan in that defense.
Yes,
Brandon, who you got winning this one?
I got Michigan.
All right. Leaf?
I got Michigan, but I think it's gonna come down to the wire. It should be a very heartfelt game for those players. They've been playing their hearts out, man. So those kids they pulling for their coach, man. But I think it's gonna be a tough one. It should be a close one. I think it's gonna be like a single digit like one possession game.
Champ, I know I'm a Michigan fan, but I can't remember the name of the coach, the interim coach who's replaced Jim Harbaugh so far. Do you remember his name by any chance?
I think his name is Shane something. I don't know for Shane something.
I'll look it up, but he has done a tremendous job with this team, given the controversy. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can do it. It's going to be a nailed down to the wire game, but hey, this is a big one right here. He wins this one, and if he can help continue, then Champ, at some point in time, he better get a head coaching job.
They were saying that before the game even started. That was the whole
get a head coaching job. He better get one.
They were saying that before the game even started, that he was next in line for a college head coaching position. They were saying that even before the game started. That's how good of a coach that he really is. So I think that he's definitely should get a shot, especially winning a game of this magnitude. But you have to but like I said, it's all going to come down to those players and how they rally around their coach.
And there's another big one. Auburn, Alabama at Auburn. This is a big one right here. The Iron Bowl game. Now, Alabama, they are a 13-point favorite. They're 8th in the nation. They clinched the SEC West. They're going to face champs Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC championship game. Now, they had one loss. I believe that was week 2 or week 3 against the Texas Longhorns, but they've turned it around. Champ, I mean, the rivalry, the history, it's at Auburn, Jordan Ayers Stadium. Who you got?
Alabama, but by a small margin, by 7 points, because they're gonna throw everything except the kitchen sink at and they're gonna throw everything except the kitchen sink at Alabama. And if you remember correctly, it was close last year, although Auburn was horrible last year. They were horrible last year, and it was real close last year. So with a game of that magnitude, it's gonna be a little bit closer than people think they are. And you can best believe Kirby Smart is watching that game because he's trying to look for every single advantage he can get over Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide, because we've never beaten him. We've never beaten him in his tenure in the SEC championship. So he's gonna be looking at that game close.
All right, Leaf.
Auburn better win this game. I don't think they could afford to lose, to be honest with you. If they lose this
You
game,
got Auburn win this one, Leaf?
I mean, not Auburn, excuse me, Alabama. Alabama. Alabama better not lose this game. They can't afford to lose to Auburn, man. If they lose with the year that they had in the skid that they've been having, going back to the last year, man, they can't afford to lose this game. Not for their fan base, not for the SEC, not for the future of the SEC. They can't afford to lose this game. But it looks like the tide, no pun intended, is basically turning on college football with the Nick Sabans and the Jimbos and all of those guys. Man, they're not the allure to college football that they once were. And you're starting to see that as it unfolds in Alabama, man. I tell you, there's gonna be a lot of people. And I'm not that big of a college fan or a college detractor, man, but it's gonna be a lot of people that's not gonna be so sad to see Alabama finally deteriorate and crumble and be bottom feeders once the Nick Saban I guess era, the days of Nick Saban start to wind down. So, but Alabama better win this. They need to win this game, because if they lose this,
They are 13-point favorite in this one.
They had better win this game. They had better win this game, man. Like they need this. They can't afford to lose this.
Well, Champ is loving this because he's a Georgia Bulldogs fan.
Right.
He's won back-to-back national championships. Champ's been on the record hoping for a three-peat, and if they win,
has that ever happened? Has that ever happened in college?
In the 30s.
In the 30s. Who did that?
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn.
If they win this one, if Kirby Smart pulls off a three-peat, we're going to have a discussion as to if he's one of, if not the greatest college football coaches ever. He's definitely in the conversation if he wins a three-peat.
By far. And I think in the standard of just football in the United States, to win a three-peat in football, like it's definitely got to be something said about that. We haven't seen a three-peat in quite some time. I think the last time in college sports is probably what the Connecticut Huskies, the women's team, probably, if I had to say. So yeah, in terms of the men's side of things, I like yeah, man, wow, Georgia got a shot at history, and I don't think there's no room for error. Obviously, everything is on the line. Everything is on the line, champ.
Yep.
Everything is on the line, man, and I think it's either going to be the highs of the highs or a big high, and it's going to be a big ass choke slam. So
yeah. And for those who may not know, Minnesota, the Gophers. Bob Pichet, watching the last few minutes of practice, knows that the Gophers were the last team to three-peat from 1934 to 1936. So if Kirby Smart three-peats over nearly 90 years. Where does this rank him amongst head coaches if he does three-peat?
He would arguably have to be at least top 5. I know number one is probably number 1 and number 2 is probably going to be Nick Saban and Bear Bryant.
Right.
And then you have to put Coach McKay in there and Tom Osborne in there. And
what about where does Jimmy Johnson rank as a college coach?
Jimmy Johnson won 1 national championship and was not in college football very, very long. So, yeah.
Okay.
What about Urban?
Because I guess I got to learn the list because Urban is definitely the Urban Meyer definitely deserves some praise.
Yeah,
sure.
Urban Meyer definitely does, winning 3 national championships. But when you do something that has never been done in a long time, especially in a conference like the SEC, where you have to go through Alabama, you have to go through LSU, you have to go through these teams, it's very, 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 it's hard to do that in college football at all. I mean, the last team that we saw that even got close was the USC Trojans, if I'm not mistaken.
Was that the
05 team?
That was the time when they had Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush and the crew.
Yeah.
So that was the Pete Carroll team, yeah.
Yeah, that was the Pete Carroll team. And even before that, a team that I saw probably before you guys' time was the Nebraska team in the mid-90s.
In the mid-90s, yeah.
Yeah, they had a chance to repeat. Yeah.
They did. They definitely
also had
did.
a great running back at that time. I think his name was Lawrence Phillips.
Yeah, God rest his soul.
Lawrence Phillips, yeah, definitely. He was a hell of only reason why I remember is because my parents used to work at the Heisman Committee, and that's where they had met back in the 80s, man. And they worked all the way up until there. They used to go there, in the 90s and everything. And my mom has a picture with Barry Sanders, and that was the first time she seen Barry Sanders, and like she didn't even know who he was because the guy that was supposed to win that year, I don't remember his name, but I think he played for if I'm not mistaken, he might have played for Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, because Colorado had a good program back in the 80s as well. Eric Bieniemy also played for Colorado as well too. Back then, my mom met him. So yeah,
connections, Lee.
Yeah. Mom, like this like around the time I was first born, but like my mom, she worked at the Heisman Committee back in the 80s before eventually she owned a tax business and raised 6 kids off of self-employed income. So
no doubt about it. And of course, Heisman, I think it's Jalen Daniels to lose, even though LSU, they're not going to the SEC championship game, although they had the 3 losses. But, champ, these last couple of games, he's putting up video game numbers. Even with the Ole Miss loss, he's putting up crazy numbers this season. So you can make an argument for guys like, look, Johnny Manziel. He won the Heisman Trophy as a redshirt freshman, and he put up monster numbers. You can look at Lamar Jackson. You can look at standouts like that. Do you think it's his Heisman to lose?
Yes, it is. And it will also depend on, let me look at this right here and see how Bo Nix is doing in this game right here. Because Bo Nix has 314 yards and 2 touchdowns at this point. Not to mention he has 30 yards on the ground on 6 carries and a touchdown on the ground. And they're beating Oregon State right now.
24-7.
Yeah, I believe it's Jaden Daniels to lose. Because if you take Jaden Daniels away from this team, they don't win. They had a chance all year long with him at the helm. If you take him away from that team, they maybe win 5 games. And you got to think about it. Their offense has basically had to carry their team because that defense has been flat out terrible at times. So I think it's Jaden Daniels to lose because not only does he have the yards through the air, he has the yards on the ground. And you can rest assured that the NFL scouts are looking at him like the poor man's Lamar Jackson at this point, especially with the numbers that he's putting up. And with him playing Texas A&M this week, I don't think that Texas A&M defense is going to be able to do too much against him, especially with their coach not being there anymore. I mean, he's not only leading his team in touchdowns through the air, but he's the leading rusher on that team on the ground. I mean, if he runs for another 100 yards, he has 1,100 yards on the ground. He has the most touchdowns this season out of anyone. So that offense have basically had to carry LSU pretty much all year long.
And
They've had to put up at least 30 points.
And you look at his numbers: 36 touchdown passes to only 4 interceptions, a completion percentage of 76.4. And then you look at the games.
Wait, who is this now?
Jaden Daniels, the quarterback from LSU. You look at the Florida game: 12 carries for 234 yards, 19.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Even with the loss against Alabama, and the only reason why they lost that game was because he got hurt.
He got knocked out of the game.
11 for $163 in a tub. And then you look at Auburn: 11 for 93. So he's the ultimate dual threat quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's his. I think it's his to lose early on. I had Michael Penix Jr. I love Michael Penix, but you can make an argument: undefeated season, the big victory at Oregon, but it's going to be hard to disregard the numbers. So we'll see on that. But let's talk about some NFL. Let's talk about some NFL picks. We talked about the games between Thursday and Friday. So, Leaf, I'm going to let you go first on this one. Steelers at Bengals, and the Steelers are 2.5-point favorites. Now, the Steelers, as Champ mentioned, Matt Patricia is gone. There are much more problems with the Steelers offense. I don't think Kenny Pickett is the long-term solution. The Bengals, they're out with Joe Burrow. Mind you, he suffered a torn fracture, I think, in his wrist, his throwing hand, and he's out for the rest of the season. Jake Browning, the backup quarterback, will come in, and he hasn't been relevant since his days in Washington. Leaf, who you got?
Sadly, I got the Steelers, but I'm looking forward to them actually screwing it up, because I don't want to hear Jay Mouth when he comes around. That's another annoying being I could do without. Yeah. So with the injury to Joe Burrow, and I think the Bengals, invisible juice finally ran out. At least for the moment, they're gonna have to rebuild and have to retool this roster to do something quickly. I mean, but because Joe Burrow, with the injuries starting to pile up now, I don't think he's gonna last too long, man. I think he's gonna be one. If they don't do something soon, we're looking at a big what if in the NFL. So
you're gonna end up like Andrew Luck.
And I've been on your show, and my heart, and you know how much I despise certain players and certain athletes, especially when it pertains to the other sport. But my heart and my soul goes out for like what that man had to endure in his NFL career, man. He took an absolute beating, and how he was dealt in his last swan song out of that arena, and what those fans how those fans treated him was nothing short of disgusting. And what that organization treated him with was nothing short of disgusting as well, because they did nothing around him. But the Cincinnati Bengals, man, they got to look themselves in the mirror, because it's time to put something around Joe Burrow and stop BSing around and stop playing around. I got the Steelers to win this game, though, man. I think the Steelers, defensively, they're figuring something out, and they figure out how to win games. They probably one of the most fraudulent teams to win games in each of the season. It's been going on for the past couple of years, but I got the Steelers.
I got the Steelers. They're coming off a tough loss against Cleveland last week. Champ, what says you?
The Steelers, I think that with them getting rid of Matt Canada, although they're going to win some games, they're going to start realizing that Kenny Pickett is not the answer. And I've said this before. It's unfortunate that the Steelers, they should have way more Super Bowls than they do, considering the teams that they have surrounding some of these quarterbacks. With the exception of Big Ben, Big Ben was a godsend to that team. Because if you remember Bill Cowher in those early years in the 90s, he should have had at least 2 to 3 Super Bowls with some of that.
And in the 90s?
Yeah.
With Cordell Stewart and
Neil
O'Donnell. Who did they have at quarterback in '95? The year that they win.
No, they had this Neil O'Donnell at 95 when
Neil
they went to the Super Bowl,
O'Donnell. Yeah,
when he played that. I still say to this day that game was fixed. Hey, 2 games that was fixed in my lifetime. The 1991 semifinals, UNLV against Duke. That game was fixed. I don't care what anybody says. And that 95 Super Bowl
versus Duke was fixed. Oh man! Wow! Oh wow! That's I don't think I ever heard that one before, man. But I definitely
UNLV. That was the Larry Johnson team. That team was averaging 30, was beating team by 30 points a game.
Some points a game. Yeah.
Then you get to the semifinals, you lose by 2 points, and a week later, a picture comes out with you in a hot tub with a guy named the Fixer, who had previously been indicted on racketeering charges for fixing games at Boston College. You mean to tell me that game wasn't fixed?
All right. Listen, if anybody on any of these spaces draws up conspiracies, best believe it's me. And I do remember the Fixer, and I do remember that hot tub picture. But if we're being honest, the year before they beat the hell out of Duke, and it wasn't even close. Now the year later, that game did come down to a final possession. I get it. It was some things in that game that was a little fishy. And they was in there with the Fixer a week later in the hot tub and looked fishy and everything. However, we got to remember names like Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon. A lot of those guys were leaving. You know what I'm saying? Like this. So I don't think their mind was really fixated on the game at that point, man. Larry Johnson was the #1 overall pick. And he was looking at NBA dollars and NBA money. So if you want to say it's fixed, I'm petty enough to believe you. Yeah, definitely. I'm petty and evil enough to believe you, but I got to see a little bit more results. However, that '95 game, I guess the Super Bowl game that you're talking about,
yeah, he threw it right to Larry Brown twice.
Yeah, Larry Brown is a.
He got paid. Neil O'Donnell got paid handsomely that game.
What did he get paid like Jake Delhomme got paid in the game where he threw like 6 interceptions? Don't tell me you don't remember that.
I remember that game.
Yeah, you do. Okay, all right. Because Jake Delhomme, apparently, somebody told me that Jake Delhomme was partially blind in one eye.
I ain't never heard that.
Nobody never heard that story. Yeah, he played.
Same thing with Jim McMahon. I mean. And people
I heard that with Jim McMahon. Yeah,
Jim McMahon was partially blind with one eye as well. Not to mention, people don't even realize the reason that Vinny Testaverde threw all of those interceptions. Warren Sapp brought it to the light. Vinny Testaverde was colorblind.
Oh my God! Wow. What was these? These were like legitimate dogs playing the quarterback position. He said he colorblind. One dude was legal. Like Jake Delhomme was legally blind, bro, when he got drafted, and then he threw 6 interceptions, and then they ran with the. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, these stories is wild, man. But
let's move on to this next one. Interesting one right here. Jaguars at the Texans. The Jaguars are 2-point favorites. We saw the Texans went to Jacksonville and beat them early this season. I mean, this is really tough. This is a really good division right here. I mean, you look at Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud. I've been on the record saying that CJ Stroud might be better than Trevor Lawrence at this point. Trevor Lawrence, I'm sorry to say this, but has been a disappointment. Champ has talked about why people love Trevor Lawrence from day one. The size, 6'6", 220, prototypical. Coming out of college, he was the best quarterback prospect considered since Andrew Luck. But I'm going to go with Jacksonville in this one. I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I think it's going to be a tight one, 27-23. Leaf, I see you got the Packers hat on. Talk to me.
This is going to be a good game, and I think both quarterbacks have a chance to really see like who's going to be the who's who in this division for some time, for the foreseeable future. You got 2 of the best quarterbacks in this division. They are the 2 best quarterbacks in this division. But I think Trevor Lawrence has a chance to really start reminding some people who he can be in this game. So I'm gonna go out on a limb because I like what the Texans are doing. CJ Stroud has been one of the greatest stories of this year. Very good bright spot, but in the end, a rookie is a rookie. And you can't, and eventually, you're gonna have to start figuring some things out. I think eventually he's gonna run into something, and I got the Jaguars. I'm gonna take the Jaguars. I'm gonna take the Jaguars in a close one. I'm gonna take them.
Now, you could make an argument CJ Stroud could bounce back because the past couple of games, although they've won, he struggled taking care of the football. You look at Arizona, he threw 3 picks. And you look at Cincinnati, he had 2 turnovers, a pick and a fumble. So who knows? There could be a possibility CJ could have another bad rookie game, or he can play better. But Champ, what says you? Champ?
Champ.
Yeah, can you hear me?
No, we can hear you.
We hear you.
All right. I will say this once, and I'll say it again. People love falling in love with Trevor Lawrence because of what he looked like rather than what he is. And I will say this game will prove it because I believe CJ Stroud is going to outplay him, especially in the city of Houston. So guess what? And let's not forget the X Factor. Shout out to Trent. Shout out to Trent. Don't forget about Tank Dell and Nick Collins and that receiving core out there. They're looking like
Don't forget Dalton Schultz too.
Yes. Don't forget about that.
That's a good ass receiving core right there. That is.
Looking like Houston Texans are looking like the old school Oilers, except they don't play in the run. So,
and Noah Brown, before he didn't play in that against the Cardinals, but he had back-to-back 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I remember about the Oilers is the fact that they blew a 35-point lead versus Frank Wright.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I remember a lot of things about the Houston Oilers because guess what, man? We played Tecmo Bowl back then. It was
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Everybody I knew wanted to play
Warren
with Warren
Moon. Was out of control, and that
everybody wanted to play with Warren Moon.
Yes,
and you know why we're not gonna get into it on this podcast.
I was the Eagles guy, so I wanted to play with Randall Cunningham. So
yeah, everybody wanted to play with those guys or either Bo Jackson. Like I said, as far as the quarterbacks is concerned, you know why we're not gonna get into it on here. But hey, CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans, and like I said, and that's a big if, CJ Stroud could put up the numbers and lead them to a division title, look out for him in MVP conversations.
I wouldn't rule that out. And also, too, shout out to DeMeco Ryans. Definitely in the convo for Coach of the Year. And again, former defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers.
Yes, he is.
Black coaches, if y'all want to be head coaches, you better take these opportunities. Because, we did see Byron Leftwich. After the jobs he did in Tampa in 2020 and 2021, he could have went to the Jaguars. But he decided to stay another year. And guess what happened? Look what happened. Doug Peterson took in. Yeah. So you better capitalize these opportunities. But DeMeco Ryans has been exceptional. And I think the Houston Texans are the rise in the future. Now let's talk about another one. This is an interesting one right here, whether anyone wants to believe it or not. You got Tampa on the road against the Colts. The Colts are 2.5-point favorites. Champ has been talking about Baker Mayfield because he said it before. He mentioned that the Cleveland Browns made a mistake trading Deshaun Watson. It was reported that they wanted to move on from Baker Mayfield because they wanted an adult in the locker room, knocking Baker Mayfield's immaturity. If you look at Baker Mayfield this season, Leaf, I know you're not a Baker fan. He's had a solid season. You got to give him credit on that, Leaf. And when you look at Deshaun Watson, he has thrown 14 touchdown passes to only 9 interceptions with a completion percentage of 59.8 and a passer rating of 81.7. Now, he's out for the rest of the season with that shoulder injury. So, DTR is coming in. Dorian Thomas, I can't remember the rest of his name. The quarterback from UCLA. He came in. He helped the Browns beat the Steelers.
Mhm.
So, Browns versus Colts. Who do you got this one, champ?
Wait. Did you say Bucks versus?
Oh, I'm
Colts
sorry,
or
Buccaneers versus Colts. I'm sorry,
right.
Buccaneers versus Colts. I apologize.
I am going to take. I think Baker Mayfield and the Bucks are going to bounce back this game. I think I'm taking the Bucks.
All right, Leaf.
Listen. I was sold on Dak having a great year, having a pretty good year, and now I got to be forced to be sold on Baker having a good year. How disgusting it is. It just lets you know that the quarterback play. Put that down.
I'm not putting it down.
Please put that down.
If you have the nerve, the audacity to wear a Packers hat, I have the nerve to put my Oklahoma helmet.
Well, hold on. Wait. Before, listen, I'm not gonna go into detail, but Baker having the year that he's having, we all know that's not the real Baker. The same way we know that's not the real Dak. But needless to say, I will give Tampa the edge this week. I don't think the coaches are really out there to really do anything. I mean, they did draft Anthony Richardson. I don't know how that's really going. I ain't really been paying attention to them. They played one of the most embarrassing games overseas that I've seen. Even though they won that game, but it was just.
Oh, you mean New England?
Yeah, it's just embarrassing football. Any win against Bill Belichick is a win against racism. But for sure, by far. But my bad. But yeah, I'm taking the Bucks. Man.
All right. Oh my God, this next one, champ's gonna throw up right now. Saints versus the Falcons. New Orleans is a 2-point favorite. And I also reported that Desmond Ridder will be starting in this one.
Oh, man.
So, Champ
breathe. Just breathe, man. You can't have everything. The Bulldogs is about to take it, bro. Come on, man.
Rise up. Ain't no damn way I'm finna go against. I'm not finna pick them again. I'm not finna pick the Saints for nothing. So rise up. I don't care if they bring out Jeff Joyce and they can play. I'm not taking this. This is hate week. This is not business. This is personal.
It is, huh?
This is personal. So there ain't no way I'm about to pick New Orleans Saints in order to do anything against the Atlanta Falcons. I don't care how terrible we is. So guess what? We gonna rise up, and Desmond Ridder, he might have a mediocre game, but we'll win this game by a point.
If he has a horrible game, will you go on the air on Brandon's show on Monday and talk about it?
Yes, I will, and I will talk about him like he has a tail.
We rise up. We rise up again. We rise up.
I just hope he rises up instead of throwing up in that game, because he has a bad habit of turning the ball over.
We rise up.
All right, Leaf, what you got, man?
Rise up.
I got the Falcons, man. I got the Falcons.
I'm only go with the Saints because I just want to jinx them so that Shaq can get pissed off. So yeah. Now this one is going to be a very least interesting game. You got the New England Patriots on the road against the New York Giants. Now, the New York Giants, they came off a victory against my Commanders, in which Tommy DeVito, he looked like the second coming of Eli Manning. 3 touchdown passes, over 200 yards. The Patriots, they have been awful this season. Mac Jones has been struggling. I've defended him, but I can't defend him anymore. I've said it before, folks. I'm going to say it again. I told y'all, I do not want Bill Belichick being the coach of the Commanders. I think that would be like Phil Jackson to the New York Knicks. Not only you're going to ask him to be the head coach, he wants final say with the roster and everything else. And he's going to implement the Patriot way. kind of like how Phil Jackson implemented the triangle offense with the Knicks, and he's going to make bad moves. One of them in particularly Joakim Noah, and we don't need to go any further with that. New England, listen, if you lose to this team right here, if Tommy DeVito has another big game, I don't know what to tell you. Leaf, who you got?
I got the Giants, but I'm laughing because you said Joakim Noah. We got to remember his first the thing that he wanted to do when he got to the Knicks was to sign Lamar Odom, who was on crack.
You quoting Stephen A. Man.
I got the Giants no matter what, man. Screw the Patriots. You get what you reap what you sow, man. Get out of here.
Champ.
Hey,
just take the Giants, champ. Don't come on,
15-second rant. Hey, are any is the New England Patriots really losing if they lose this game? Because
No.
I'm gonna just say this. It's time for them to reboot that franchise, and they're gonna need at least a top 5 pick in order to draft one of the quarterbacks that they want.
They're gonna need good coaching staff. They're gonna need new ownership. They're gonna need new everything.
I don't think they need new ownership because this ownership has did even before Bill Belichick. They went to the Super Bowl with Bill Parcells. You know,
right?
Yeah, but it goes to show you, Bill Belichick ain't the same without Brady, man.
That just goes to show you that they need new ownership too. I want Kraft gone. I want that logo and them colors gone. Go back to that pink shit that they had.
But I think I think that the Patriots will take this one. But like I said, it's a win-win situation with them. You either win the game or you're one step closer to get your franchise quarterback in the draft. And if and that's a big if, Bill Belichick is smart, if
he needs to go.
He needs to go ahead and look at Byron Leftwich and get himself an offensive coordinator, because him trying to sign his old buddies and keep the old guard intact is not going to cut it. I mean,
absolutely.
Now we got another, unfortunately for Harrison, his 1-9 Carolina Panthers. They're the worst team in football. Unfortunately, they won't have the number 1 overall pick, because remember last year they traded up to get the number 1 overall pick for Bryce Young. They're going up against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are a 3.5-point favorite. Will Levis has played solid. Whoever thought a man who put mayonnaise in his coffee would actually play this well? I know that cringes Champ every single time.
Oh, what?
No, I'm seriously. He actually put mayonnaise in his coffee.
That is cringeworthy.
Wait. Who he play for?
He plays for the Tennessee Titans. He used to play for Kentucky. He used to put mayonnaise in his coffee.
I got the Panthers, man. Let's move on. Come on, man. Champ, take the Panthers, man. Come on, let's move on. We're not interested in this game. Let's go.
I hope that Bryce Young finally has a great game. And for that reason, I want the Panthers to win. So I'm going to take the Panthers over the mayonnaise, man.
I'm going to go with the Titans in this one.
Oh, you going with Mayo.
Rams at Cardinals, and the Rams are 2.5-point favorites. Kyler Murray has played back-to-back games, but Kyler Murray, in 5 years with the Arizona Cardinals, has only managed to win 1 game against the Rams, and that was his 3rd year, and that was when the Cardinals, they were off to that hot start in the first half of the season. Kyler looked like he was the favorite for the league MVP before he got hurt, and the Cardinals fell apart. Leaf, who you have winning this one between the Rams and the Cardinals?
I got the Cardinals, and I got unfortunately I got Kyler Murray, aka Russell Wilson Jr. I'm gonna take the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah.
And by the way, his record against the Rams 1-6.
Ooh.
I think he can get another game ahead, because the Rams is piss poor defensively. Kyler could get one.
Well, they just recently beat the Seahawks. Although you can look at the Seahawks and.
Yeah, that we yeah, but that's one of the reasons why Brandon ain't here. I'm gonna take the Cardinals though.
Champ.
I don't want Kyler to win nothing, so I'm gonna take the Rams.
You're just saying that because you just don't want him to go to ATL.
You don't want him to go to Atlanta.
No, I don't want him. I don't want Arthur Blank or Arthur Smith or nobody or any other authors in Atlanta to get anybody ideas about Kyler. So
if he does this, Champ, are you gonna go on a rant or something?
I'm gonna go on a huge rant. It's gonna be a biblical proportion.
It's gonna be a biblical. It's gonna be bad.
A biblical proportion.
It's gonna get nasty.
Now this right here, this is a pretty good one right here. Browns at Denver. Denver is a 1.5 point favorite. Russell Wilson quietly has had a solid season, productive season, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. The defense has been playing better compared to how they previously started. They gave up 70 points to that Miami Dolphins offense. And even though they won against the Chicago Bears, they were awful by letting Justin Fields torch them up. Leaf, you could say chap, but I wouldn't rule out Denver just yet. They've been playing very well. You look at the past 4 games, they beat your Packers, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Bills, and they also beat the Vikings. So their last 3 victories have gone up against teams that are in the discussion for the playoffs. Browns, unfortunately, they are without Deshaun Watson, but they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Myles Garrett leads the NFL in sacks with 13. He's the runaway favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. So it's going to be interesting to see how Russ goes up against that defense. I'm going to go with the Broncos in this one. Champ?
You say this. The Browns have to win this game. They have to win this game if they want to stay in contention. Because the thing is, they get beat by Russell Wilson, I can guarantee you this is going to be the beginning of the end of their season. So I'm going to go with the Browns. Plus, I want Myles Garrett to have a good game against Russ. This is the opportunity to have a big game, stop that big old comeback from going on. So go Brownies on this one.
Leaf?
I got Cleveland. And the reason why is because I want Russell Wilson out of this damn league. I don't ever want to see his ass again. I don't want to see him take a snap again. I don't want to see him take the field again. I'm sick and tired of I'm tired of him. I'm tired of I'm tired of him hitting the field. I'm tired of him acting like he's tough. I'm tired of him. He has been a beast mode merchant most of his career, and that has not changed in my eyes to me. I don't give a damn what the Denver Broncos do. Sean Payton is another buster, man. I want him out of the league too, because he quitted on this team early in this season, man, by trying to throw a lot of them under the bus, and the defense paid for it by giving up 70 points. They basically showed their ass by giving up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins weeks ago. I don't have no belief in this damn team whatsoever. The Cleveland Browns have the best defense in the league. I expect them to bully it right from the get-go, push people around right from the get-go, the same way they did the San Francisco 49ers when the San Francisco 49ers tried to come in and Trenton Williams tried to bully them. They need to punch the little munchkin in the mouth. I'm sick and tired of him hitting the field. I need him out. I don't care for him, bro. He's been one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the past 10 years, man. Easily.
Wow.
Clipping this. I am definitely clipping this.
I need him out.
Okay, hold on, Leaf. I could understand why people are mad, and I've been critical in the past with Russell Wilson. I've said he's corny. I stand by calling him that. But you want him out the league? Now that's going way too far now.
It is. I know it is.
What? What did he do to you? What did he do to you? He ruined your Thanksgiving dinner? What happened?
And one of the reasons is, man, I thought for the entitled LOB Seattle run, he's been living off the allure of that defense, Pete Carroll and Marshawn Lynch. He has been living off them. And everybody want to talk about the years when they were gone and he had those starts to those seasons, man, and he had blunders. He was looking like a one-man version of the New York Jets, man, when he had those damn starts to those seasons, and then he fell and crumbled like I knew he would. He is a rollout left, rollout right merchant, man, for a lot of his athletic career, and at the times he has been playing well, but I don't give a damn. Screw him. You know,
you called him. Hold on, Lee. You called Russell Wilson the most overrated quarterback
in the
last decade.
Yes.
Wow.
He's arguably the most overrated quarterback in the last decade, easily.
Wow.
I can't think of any. I can't think of anybody else that was overrated. We know who Dak is. Dak is a piece of trash. We knew Matt Ryan wasn't really all of that. We knew a lot of other quarterbacks that was basically getting like the quote unquote stamp of approval. Well, it wasn't all of that. Russell Wilson has been living under the allure of that 12th man, that LOB, Marshawn Lynch, and Pete Carroll. And he is taking that to Denver, where he's basically which I believe he stole a big ass contract and $230-some million from that Denver franchise, and they can. And now the thing is, they can't afford to get anything all after the fact. Now that he's stolen that money, man, he needs to go. I want him out. I never want to see him take the field and take a snap ever again. I want him gone. That's how I feel about him. It's personal.
So Leaf, was he more overrated than Tony Romo?
That's what I was gonna ask that.
Now that I think about it, it's close. But I probably, if I had to flip a coin and say who was more overrated, man, I think like that Super Bowl probably made him more overrated than Tony Romo, because we all know that Super Bowl was really won by mostly by that defense, in the way that they dominated old Peyton Manning and that offense that he was putting out there. They dominated him. So yeah, I would say definitely, man. And I've been knew that since that Super Bowl. Everybody was trying to give Russell Wilson the reins and crown him and everything, but I already knew who he was all along. He was a rollout left, rollout right merchant. Marshawn Lynch was he was living off of Marshawn Lynch, and he was living off of Pete Carroll, and he was living off of LOB and that 12-man garbage. It's over now, and I need him to be, and he's really over too. Yeah, I don't care about the 19-4. I don't care about the year that he had. Screw it all. I want him gone.
Was he more overrated than Flacco, Tannehill, Dalton?
Yes.
I don't think well, Tannehill was always terrible to me. Obviously, the Miami years proved that. Flacco, I never really bothered with Flacco, even though he did win a Miracle Whip Super Bowl. Dalton, never really good. They named him the Red Rocket. Brandon knows how I feel about this guy, man. I need him gone. Brandon, as a Seattle, I know you're a Seattle Seahawks fan. I like Geno. I like what y'all doing over there, but him, never liked him. No, never liked him.
All right, I have to get into it, man. Hey, pound for pound, you taking him or Matt Ryan?
I'll take him, because Matt Ryan was never really much to speak of, too much to me.
For real?
Yeah, I never thought that. I never believed in that Matty Ice crap that they were selling down there. No.
All right.
Okay, Leaf.
Had
Russ
the least
or
talented
Cam?
team his rookie year.
Russ or Cam? I'm at their best, I'm taking Cam.
Wow.
Cam was the MVP, man, running away.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this: Russ or Phillip Rivers at their prime?
I definitely take Russ. I think Phillip Rivers was a pretty okay quarterback, but he's suffering from the same thing that Herbert is suffering from, the fact that it's the Chargers, so it's basically garbage in, garbage out over there. So they got to figure out what to do and what to do fast around Herbert, or send him somewhere else. So so I'll take Russ in the strength for that. And Phillip Rivers wasn't a never underrated or overrated, man. He was rated properly where he was.
All right, prime Russ or Big Ben?
Damn, that's actually a good one. I think Ben Roethlisberger, man. He was obviously he obviously was a winner, but I think Ben was hard to take down. He was hard to take down. Like you had to really hit him. You know what I'm saying? Like Ben was tough. Ben was tough as a quarterback, man. So I have to go with Ben because Ben had toughness. He had that toughness, man. I ain't like what he did off the field and what he got away with, but he had toughness. So I give it to Ben.
All right. Wow. I mean I know he hates Russell Wilson personally, but
let me ask y'all something real quick, man.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Why do people keep saying that Russell is corny? That's the question I be want to ask everybody. It's like, is it because of how he acts or he's too professional? Because if he is corny, it's safe to say that a lot of the quarterbacks that were at least, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, a lot of the black quarterbacks.
Champ, you know why they say it.
Wait a minute. Why? I mean, it's safe to say because, people will say he's corny these days because he's all buttoned up. But ask yourself this: if Warren Moon and some of the black quarterbacks that we saw growing up played in this era, would they be considered corny as well because they were real button-up quarterbacks as well?
Yeah, Champ. The reason why I call him corny is because I don't care if he's buttoned up or whatever. He's trying to be something he's not. He's trying to show people that he got personality. Like when he says Bronco Country, let's ride, or with them damn Subway commercials, don't you like for a second like cringe? Like, dude, like you're trying to be more than what you are. Don't you think?
He's running around. He's running around.
Honest with you, I don't. I mean, like I said, he's not. Personality-wise, everybody that's not going to have that big personality. Like I said, Warren Moon didn't have a huge personality. He was always very, very stoic. I mean, if you really look at between Warren Moon and Randall Cunningham, the one that had the bigger personality was Randall Cunningham. Warren Moon, if you really look back on Warren Moon's career, and that's the reason why Warren Moon liked Russell Wilson. He was real stoic. He was very, very quiet. You really never saw him in any controversy. And I think Russell, to be honest with you, I'm not finna campaign for Russell. I think he gets a bad rap because he's not necessarily the flashy player that we're used to seeing as far as a black quarterback is concerned. He's not going to be a Cam Newton. He's not going to be a Randall Cunningham, a Michael Vick, or RG3. And I hate to say it, as a black quarterback, we're used to seeing flashy quarterbacks at the flashy quarterbacks as far as black quarterbacks at the quarterback position. We do not see a guy with we don't see pretty much guys with bland personalities as far as Russell Wilson is concerned, as far as black quarterbacks are concerned. So it's easy to say that, oh, he's corny because he's not as flashy, especially considering our age group. We grew up on Randall Cunningham, Mike Vick, then later on with RG3 and guys like that. And you got to think about this. A guy like Warren Moon, would he be considered corny because he's all buttoned up as a quarterback and he's not on and off the field being flashy as we would see many of his other counterparts being? Or would Doug Williams be considered corny because, he was similar to Russell Wilson? Would he be considered corny nowadays because he wasn't a flashy quarterback or a look at me quarterback? You have to ask yourself these questions.
I think the difference
Champ, what comes down to, Champ, why people may feel a certain way, and I don't feel that way about Russell Wilson? I think they're jealous because of who he is, the fame, the wife that he has with Sierra. A lot of black women that I go to them hair salons, they love themselves some Russell Wilson because he's an honest man, loves the Lord, wears the Lord on his sleeve. He's found a woman that he loves and vice versa. He's being a father, helping her out with the kids and stuff. They love all these things about Russell Wilson. I mean, there has been criticism about Russell Wilson in the past. Shannon Sharp has criticized them for with the Broncos giving him preferential treatment. I just knock him as far as trying to be something that he's not in terms of the personality. If that's not you, that's not you. I'll give credit to Russell Wilson with his play. I think he will belong in the Hall of Fame. Honestly, Champ, I do think young Russ was very exciting to watch because of his improvisation. his ability to extend the play, and he had a big arm. He made some beautiful deep ball passes. Of course, Leaf, I don't want to get into it because the NFC Championship game, he was awful in that NFC Championship game. I'm sorry, technical difficulties. He was awful in that NFC Championship game against Leafs Packers, and they won. Now, you could look at other reasons why the Packers lost, the onside kick. They look at all the other things. Russ, I have him as a Hall of Famer. He's going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He has the body of work. He's been a 9-time Pro Bowler. You can't take away or discount that, no matter how you feel about him. So I think Russ deserves his credit or recognition that he deserves. Leaf, to me, he just can't stand him. To say you want him out the league, Leaf, I mean, that's kind of crazy, though.
And I go deep into my reason why, because he runs around the NFL like he has the allure that Steph Curry has in the NBA. You know, like this like every time he's doing all of these things on the field when he scores and everything. And Steph does it too. And Steph annoys me with it, man, because it's sort of a laugh now, cry. I call it laugh now, cry later thing. And funny thing, champ, you won't remember this. My homie actually hit me up earlier. He was like, yo, remember this Sierra game, bro, in Atlanta? when Future and Ludacris and Bow Wow showed up and they were screaming Sierra in the crowd. I'm like, yo. See,
we actually won that game.
Yeah. And things like that could not have happened to guys like Doug Williams or Warren Moon, man, because they stood on respect and they stood on a lot of things, man. Like when I see him, I see a yes man, man. I see a pushover. I see a pity pat kid, man. I see soft. I see weakness, man. When I see him, I see apathy.
Wow.
That's what I see when I look at Russell Wilson, man. Like every time I see him, even when he was going to the playoff games in Denver when the Nuggets were winning, I just saw a dude that was just playing a role and trying to play this big celebrity part like you Steph Curry, and you're not, and like you're the Steph Curry of the NFL, and you're not. You're not that, bro. Like you really weak, bro. Like you been weak on the field, bro. I knew that, man, from the time, even before I knew that even before that 1 yard interception. You a yes man. You a do what you told kind of guy. You always have been that, man. Like you pretty much been nothing to me, and you've been getting lucky because of LOB and because of Pete Carroll and because of Marshawn Lynch, man. They made you.
Okay, one last question. One last question before we move on to the rest of the picks. Leaf, let me ask you this question. Do you believe Russ is a Hall of Famer?
Eventually he will be. I mean, like the Hall of Fame is at this point, it's not like the only Hall of Fame to me that really makes sense, and I think and it kind of doesn't, and it does, is really the Baseball Hall of Fame. The NFL Hall of the football. I'm not even going.
You said wait, Tom, hold. Excuse me for saying this on your soul. Hold the fuck up. Hold up. You're sitting here. I apologize. And you know, if YouTube finds you, then you can send me the fine.
It's okay, champ. Go ahead.
You mean to tell me to sit there and tell me that the Baseball Hall of Fame makes sense? I mean, you got 3 guys. You got 4 guys that you cannot write the history of baseball. Right. You can't write the history of baseball without Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Pete Rose, and Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, yeah, and even
and they don't have to be in the
Roger Clemens as well.
You mean to tell me that is a respected Hall of Fame?
Well, listen.
One can argue you can't write the book on the Baseball Hall of Fame without Shoeless Joe Jackson either. Although he did what he did, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. You got guys that you can't write the history of baseball. They're not in the Hall of Fame yet. They're respected.
I think the consistency of that the Baseball Hall of Fame stands on that's what I was talking about. That like if they say you did something, did the XYZ deserve. Don't get me wrong, Barry Bonds.
You have guys in the cocaine era that used greenies. that used amphetamines. Daryl Strawberry has been on the record saying it.
Yes.
Guys like that are in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
But just because these guys just so happen to use steroids, you mean to tell me that that's consistent?
I will say this. I probably use
the cocaine era. That's not just the steroid era. That's just the most popular era because of Jose Canseco.
Right. But
you have the cocaine era, you have the Greenies era, and you have the era where they didn't allow. There was two separate leagues. We'll say it that way.
You know what? I'm gonna walk it back. I'm gonna walk it.
The Baseball Hall of Fame is better than the NFL Hall of Fame and the NBA. I give it the NBA Hall of Fame because you have a couple of good All-Star game, couple of good All-Star years.
That's a come one, come all, champ.
Yeah. It's a come one, come all in the NBA.
Yeah.
But Lee, you are reaching though with the pro baseball Hall of Fame.
Maybe I was reaching with the pro football. I walk it back. But listen, in terms of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I strongly think that we can agree or probably disagree that the Professional Football Hall of Fame, which is basically the NFL Hall of Fame, is going into the direction of there's a lot of guys that is going to get in this Hall of Fame real soon that really wasn't Hall of Fame material.
You have to say this. The biggest credential of the Hall of Fame is, can they write the book on the NFL without you? And a lot of guys who are going in, you cannot write the book on the NFL without them. That's how come they put Super Bowl winners in the NFL, especially if they have a long Pro Bowl career. With a guy like Russ, you can't right or wrong. You can't write the history of the NFL with a guy without Russ, because he was part of one of the greatest defenses almost ever.
Right.
That he was.
You can't write the book on the NFL without him, because he went back to back and then came within an eyelash of being the first to beat being maybe the second quarterback after Eli Manning, in order to beat arguably the greatest of all time. I say this about the Hall of Fame, about the NFL Hall of Fame. You have to put things into perspective. And Bill Parcells himself said, if you were the greatest at your position for at least 3 years, and everybody can remember it, this is why I will beat the horn for Priest Holmes every single day of the week, because he was the greatest at his position for those 3 years.
Hold on. Before you jump the gun on Priest Holmes, and I remember Priest Holmes, we gotta remember Ricky Williams at that time. If we're talking about them early 2000s period, Ricky Williams at that time had something to say about that. We're talking about a guy before he was on the weed. Ricky Williams was damn near, if not the best running back in football. So I know you remember.
During the early 2000s, here's who I remember who was the 3 greatest in the league during that time. LaDainian Thompson, Marshall Faulk, Priest Holmes.
Yes.
Those are the guys who I remember.
Yes.
Huh? No, not Ricky. No. Ricky was good for those years he was good for those years in Miami because they was feeding him the ball every 5 minutes. He had over 400 carries during his greatest season.
Okay.
In 2002,
he wasn't leading his team to the playoffs. And he wasn't leading his team to the playoffs on a consistent basis.
Okay. In 2002, he led the NFL in rushing that year. He had 383 carries for nearly 1,900 yards and 16 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Okay, so now remember, you did mention Marshall Faulk, who came off The Greatest Show on Turf. Yeah. And then you mentioned LT, who I say probably towards the mid 2000s might have had some of his best years. I mean, don't get me wrong, but like LT in those early years was still good too. But I think the mid 2000s was probably some of his best years. So if you're telling me that Priest Holmes in that period, that his realistic only competition probably was Marshall Faulk in that early term, I would say that's good competition. But and then I would say throwing running backs, obviously that was good, but wasn't as good. Obviously, Jamal Lewis, obviously, Corey Dillon, obviously, Who else? Who else was running around there?
Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James was
Yes.
top 5 during that time.
Edgerrin James. Yeah. I should.
Sean Alexander.
Yes. He was great, especially in 2005.
Yes.
Before LT, he had the touchdown
Alexander was
record.
cold. Alexander was cold. And I think he's
Ahman Green.
Oh shit, not that piece of shit. But oh man, but yeah.
Ahman Green had some of the greatest seasons by a running back in Green Bay, brother. You can't take that away from him. Although he had his problems.
But the sample size of our running back history is not that great. Like, come on. Like, if you're gonna say that, what other lead running back did we have like that got the stamp of approval outside of him? I don't get me wrong. Dorsey Levens, Edgar Bennett.
Edgar Bennett. I mean, Ryan Grant had a brilliant couple of years up there in Green Bay.
We gotta move on, man. We gotta keep up with these picks, man.
Eddie Lacy had some years before he turned into you and started taking up your diet, man.
Leave Champ alone with this. Eddie Lacy did
no. Hey, we down south. We can take jokes. He can say a joke.
I mean, bro, like he started eating government cheese cubes by the meal. I'm like, he comes in to the damn Seattle game, 75 after Aaron Rodgers is coming off an injury, 75%. Somehow, some way, his stomach got 10 times bigger than what he started the season with. I was like, what the hell is this dude doing? It was like, yo, he likes the cheese out there. What, the cheese by the cube? Like he was eating the cheese by the cube.
Leave. He from New Orleans.
Exactly. And he played for Alabama.
Okay. All right. We had a long conversation with this one.
Yes,
now we got another one right here. Chiefs at Raiders. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites. Leaf, who wins?
I got the Raiders in the upset. I think Antonio Pierce. I think Antonio Pierce is getting something out of these guys that I don't think has never been seen before. Obviously, the Chiefs have problems, man. They keep dropping passes. I mean, their defense is holding them afloat as much as possible. But Mahomes is getting the ball to these receivers. They just not holding on to the ball. I think the Raiders
retrievers. They're not receivers. They retrievers.
Yeah. And they ain't even golden retrievers. I don't know what type of retrievers they are, bro. Like it's just not good right now, man. I think they need to figure out a way to fix something, man. Their defense is holding afloat with Chris Jones, with Jones and the crew. But I think this Raiders team, man, they're gonna end the season off pretty okay. Antonio
I got
Pierce,
the Raiders too.
Yeah, I got the Raiders, man.
I will pick the Raiders, but unfortunately, they ain't playing on the West Coast this time around. You playing in that Hawk. Known as Kansas City,
Missouri.
No, it's it's
wait.
This is
in Vegas.
It's in Vegas.
Yes.
I got the Raiders.
Oh yeah, I go on the Raiders then. If they was playing in that Hawk around this time of year, I would have picked the Kansas City Chiefs. But you playing in Las Vegas, especially with them guys dropping balls every single well. Yeah, I thought they was having.
I got the Raiders, man.
They're not playing in the Hawk, so.
All right, we got another big one right here. Bills at the Eagles. The Eagles are 3-point favorites. Champ has been on the record saying Josh Allen is the modern day Brett Favre, a turnover machine. They fired Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator. Sooner or later, we're gonna probably see Sean McDermott be fired. So Buffalo, they're gonna have to clean up house, get a new coaching regime. But the question is, who is it going to be to help out Josh Allen? Because since he came into the NFL, he's led the NFL in turnovers. So, Champ, who do you got winning this one?
They're playing in Philadelphia.
Yes.
So I'm taking Philly because the thing is, hey, this is the second half of the season. And if you throwing interceptions like that during the first half, imagine what you're going to do in the second half of the season. Plus, like I said earlier, there's no one to blame now but yourself and the coach. And more than likely, the media is going to blame the coach, and they're going to get Sean McDermott up out of there. So I think this is the beginning of the end for the beginning of the end for this Bills regime. So I'm going to take Philadelphia Eagles, and the Philadelphia's going to start it off for them.
Leaf?
I gotta co-sign everything Champ said. I think this is definitely the beginning of the end for this Bills regime. It's crazy enough to think a couple of years ago, Josh Allen played the game of his life and he left 13 seconds on the clock. And I still looked at that game with a friend of mine and I said, the Buffalo Bills is not going to win this game. And that's how crazy the NFL is, man. Like I watched him play the game of his life, and it's almost like that was his real last true gasp of air.
Demoralizing.
It was very demoralizing because, like, ever since that game, Josh Allen it's just been like the volume on your TV, man. It's been going down ever since, man. And I think this is definitely the beginning of the end. The Philadelphia Eagles should drag them all over the damn field, man, easily. This defense is pure, obviously, and obviously I think it's time for Jalen Hurts to start taking care of the goddamn football. It's time for that. And if he's going to make some type of case for some type of MVP or whatever, man, but he needs to start taking care of the goddamn football, and I think this is where it starts.
Well, he's on pace to throw 15 interceptions this season.
God damn. All right, man. But as opposed to what he was last year, that's definitely that definitely deserves the face that Champ just made. I gotta go with the Eagles, man.
I'm gonna go with the Eagles, but I do think the game will be a lot closer to what people expect because Philadelphia, they haven't been as dominant as they were last season. So even though they're winning games, I mean, they're not dominating their opponents. The only one I could say they
really only lost to
Miami.
the Jets, though. Like that's fucking ridiculous.
I think the Jets were underestimated in that game, and that's what happens when you underestimate your opponent. That's the result you get.
That is the team to underestimate if you want to underestimate anybody.
All right, we got Sunday Night Football. Ravens at the Chargers. Baltimore is a 3.5-point favorite. Chargers, it seems like to me, Brandon Staley, he better get fired. Trey mentioned
he ain't get fired yet.
He's still hired, man. He's still coaching this team.
Damn.
But the problem is, Leaf, as Trey mentioned it on Trent's podcast, the Chargers, they're a cheap-ass organization with the Sperano family. Champ, there's the Sperano family. There's Mike Brown, the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals. You know how cheap they are. So when are they going to fire Brandon Staley? Baltimore should win this one. They should have no excuse not to win this one. But, Champ, what's it going to take for the Chargers to finally get rid of Staley? He was hired to be the head coach because of what he did for the Rams in 2020 when they had the number one defense. Come to find out, he was a product of Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Sean McVay. They still can't get over the 27-point deficit in which they blew against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Justin Herbert, if the Chargers, they don't get their shit together, mark my words, he better demand a trade. So, Champ, man, tell me.
You know what I will never understand? You heard me talk about this long time. I don't understand how you can keep a coach like Brandon Staley. Yet, you fire Marty Schottenheimer. Never understood that to save my days. But they weren't the first one. But you know they weren't the first one.
Apparently they didn't like him. They didn't.
They didn't like Marty. They didn't like him.
But apparently they weren't the only one because apparently they weren't the only one because your boy fired him too. In order to get Steve Spurrier, but that's a whole nother ball game. But you remember Dan Snyder had fired Marty Schottenheimer in order to pick Steve Spurrier away from.
I remember that. I'll never forget that, boy.
But I don't understand the Chargers franchise. It's like they draft all of these great players, and you see. And some of these players that they draft are arguably some of the greatest of all time. When you think about Junior Seau, when you think about
Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
Man,
they also had Johnny Edwards. They also had Sean Merriman.
Yeah.
They had
talent.
Top 10 all-time players at their position.
Yeah, Sean Phillips.
Shit.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why, why they never can win a Super Bowl. It has to come down to either management, because you really can't. It has to come down to management, because sometimes I don't know what they've been doing. I mean, but I have to
And to
go with.
also to your point, you've mentioned before, you've called them San Diego. You can still call them San Diego because in LA, it's a joke that they're in LA.
It's a damn joke, bro. Listen, I still call them the San Diego Chargers. It's by accident, but I actually mean it.
I mean, hey, like I said, man. Like I said, I don't want to offend nobody. That's how come it's like I try to correct myself when I call them the San Diego Chargers. But hey, this team, like I said, some of the greatest football players you ever want to see. Yet, no ring, none. From the 80s all the way up to now. Just wasted talent, no ring.
Lance Stallworth, Offworth, who else they had? Then they had Kellen Winslow.
Kellen Winslow Sr., Charlie
Dan
Joyner.
Fouts.
Charlie Joyner, one of the greatest receivers of all time.
They had some legendary players, and
Chuck Muncie.
See,
man, they have some legendary players, and they have zero to show for.
Zero. But I mean, this is the beginning of the end for Brandon Staley. I don't understand if he loses this game and the Los Angeles Chargers do not get rid of him. Something is seriously. I mean, he might have some pictures of somebody in that organization or something, because you have to ask yourself. And the same thing that I used to ask myself about Marvin Lewis. Why did they wait so long for him to let him go?
They liked him, and also they cheap as hell, which is why I talked to some Chargers fans. They're like, should they bring in Lincoln Riley? Lincoln Riley wants money, and the Chargers, they're a cheap ass organization.
I don't think the run and shoot is going to rework itself in the because that's what I call it, the air raid. That's what I call it, the run and shoot. I don't think that's going to work.
The air raid.
That's what they call it.
That is what they call it. Yeah, they call it.
I don't think the run and shoot is gonna. It didn't work the first time in the NFL with Warren Moon, and if it didn't work with that team, with Buddy Ryan and that defense, it's not gonna work with these guys with no defense.
Damn sure, Ryan. Yeah.
Leaf, who you got? Ravens or Chargers?
Got the Ravens.
All right, and the last one right here, and before we move on to which one you want to start bench or cuts, Bears at Vikings. Bears coming off a tough loss against the Lions, in which they should have won. Vikings, the narrative has been about Joshua Dobbs since he's taken over for Kirk Cousins. Has played very well this season. So, Leaf, who you got? And I know I'm going to go with you first because you're in the NFC North.
I got the Vikings. Yeah, I got the Vikings.
Champ?
Jefferson's coming back too, I believe. So,
yeah, that's big. Vikings. And I got I'm going to go with the Bears in this one. Shocking, as crazy as that sounds, I think Justin Fields will probably put up another good game. Who knows? Justin Fields actually needs this one so that he can increase his chances regarding a trade. And Champ, you said it before, you would rather take a young quarterback with a contract.
Yeah.
Like his.
Yep.
So this better help him. And plus, he's back in Atlanta. He's back in Georgia. He's been around that environment, so he understands how it is down there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moment I've always wanted to discuss. Start, bench, and Cub. We're going to do a wrap one right here.
Taha. This is easy for me.
Y'all see it?
Yeah, I see it. I'm gonna make this quick. This is easy for me. LL 50 Nelly.
In that order.
Yeah, that order. Yeah.
All right, Champ.
I'm starting LL because without LL, there is no greatest of all time. He coined that phrase, and nobody said anything and nobody started calling themselves GOATs until he coined that phrase.
Yeah, he made the
and
album.
I don't think, and to piggyback on that, I don't think I call him Uncle L, me and my father. I don't think Uncle L gets the credit that he deserves, partly because the newer generation and the unappreciation for old school hip hop. I mean, if you really look back at it, LL has some of the most classic albums you ever want to listen to. I mean, I could put in an LL Cool J CD and literally listen to it, you know, beat for beat. And he was a lyricist. I mean, think about 4, 3, 2, 1. You know, think about, you know, Mama Said Knock You Out. Think about some of the other songs that he had. You know, Hey Lover. People, you know, people will say, well, that's corny. Hey Lover was a hit. Yeah,
Hey
doing
Lover
it.
was definitely a hit.
Yeah.
One of my favorite joints was going back to Cali and and the booming system.
If you really think about the other two, they had peaks, but not longevity.
Right.
You know, Nelly had a peak in the mid 2000s, you know, where he was the most popular thing. They had peaks, not longevity. So
in the early 2000s, actually. I think 50 had his like 03 to like 05.
05, yeah. And then, you know, after a while, you know, like I said, peaks, not longevity. But, you know, hey, you have some pretty good albums, but ain't none of them LL, I will say. So,
none.
But peak for peak, I will say, you know, I'm starting LL, benching 50, and I'm cutting Nelly because, you know, I believe that Get Rich or Die Trying. Hey, man, I'm not going to lie to you. Back when I was in shape, and that was a long time ago, I used to wear them G Unit tank tops.
That was a long,
that was a long, you know, back when I was in the weight room, I used to wear them G Unit tank tops, you know, walking outside like a man. So,
I just remember I was coming into high school and I wore a do-rag and I wore a headband over it. Yeah, definitely. So we was definitely on our Ferrari phase during that time. This was like 03 when it came out. I might have been. I think I was. What's that? That was still my freshman year of high school. I was going into the second semester of my freshman year of high school. Everybody were running around. With it was the diesel dudes that was walking around the tank top. I was skinny, so I had the do rag and the headband. I barely weighed like 150 pounds in high school, so that was a long time ago. Damn, that was long ago.
I'm gonna start LL. I think peak longevity he has. LL has that amongst those two. LL, he brought the flavor, the Kango hats, the boom boxes. My favorite tracks from LL. Look, the remix of Longin, Around the Way Girl. That's like one of my favorite tracks from that from one of his albums. Hey Lover, Mama Said Knock You Out. I mean, LL, man, he phenomenal. Benching 50, I love Nelly. I mean, St. Louis. I mean, he made some great hit songs with the Country Grammar, Hot in Here, but I have to cut you, unfortunately. That's a tough one.
But you know what? In defense to Nelly, he made all of our favorite videos. And we'll move on from there.
Yes, he did.
We won't. It's G-rated right here. We won't get into the details.
Even though I
he
thought
made our favorite video.
It was one of the favorite videos, and this crazy thing about that video, the Ludacris video that was coming out at that time that he did was like sort of like neck and neck to that video, but eventually that video, the video that Nelly did, kind of ran away, as one of the not so PG videos of all time. But I would say Ludacris tried, but sorry, Luda, you took an L on that one, man. I think Nelly had that.
Yeah, Nelly might have got cut on this one, but he made our favorite video.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, LL, he came out a while rap groups were like only thing was around was rap groups when he came out, and he destroyed every last one of them.
Yeah. And even Eminem, I think Eminem said that's like one of his, if not his favorite rapper of all time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. LL Cool J is hard as hell.
Now, because y'all the OGs in here, I picked up some shows from the 90s. So y'all know exactly what shows these are about.
All right. Well, I think we didn't do this one before particularly, but this is kind of easy. Martin, Wayne's Brothers, and Jamie Foxx show.
Yep.
Yeah, in that order. In that order. Martin, Wayne's Brothers, and Jamie Foxx show.
Champ?
I'm taking Martin. Hey, Martin, that was no better show than Martin growing up.
Mm-hmm. You told the
I'm
story.
Hey, but I'm benching Jamie Foxx. Because the thing is, man, there was a certain skit on that where he was impersonating a great singer. I won't say his name. Where he said, "Don't step on my big toe." That was arguably one of the funniest things that you ever want to see. Like I said, it was a famous singer. I will not say his name because this is PSP show. We're gonna keep it rated G. But those were some of the funniest segments that you've ever want to see from Jamie Foxx. Him with Braxton. And it's kind of like you see the class clown go against the honor roll student with him and Braxton.
Yeah, like he kept calling him Broham. Yeah.
Yeah, that was arguably the funniest thing that you ever want to see. And some of the Jamie Foxx show was very, very underrated. Especially the shows on WGN was very underrated.
It was.
The Malcolm and Eddie show, people don't remember that too much, but that was
Malcolm and Eddie. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, used to love
with Ed Griffin and Malcolm.
But I'm cutting. I like the Wayans Brothers show. Love it to life, but I like those two. It's just a matter of feeling, But I like those two a lot better. Jamie Foxx was funnier than the Wayans Brothers to me personally.
I totally disagree with that. When we talk about the Wayans brothers, we talking about Living Color. We talking about we come on, like that. To me, that show, the second that show came on, and then we're brothers, we're happy, and we're singing, and we're colored,
and then of course the late great John Witherspoon.
Yeah, exactly, man. Listen, Pops, come on, man. With the combination of Pops, I don't think, and don't get me wrong, I think Jamie Foxx is definitely multi-talented, and he's always has been. But like in terms of comedy, the Wayans family reigns supreme in the 90s. Listen, from them two to Keenan Ivory, man, to Damon, they reigned supreme in the 90s as a family. You could argue that Martin had probably the best run in the 90s as a comedy, a la Eddie Murphy, because when him and Eddie showed up in Life, Ed just proved that he was still the guy. But in terms of family, like it's the Wayans family, and I can't even think of another family after that. They, as a family, they trumped anything that Jamie Foxx, anybody under Eddie and Martin had done as comedians or as comedy shows. To me, that's just the truth, man. At least until the Bernie Mac show came along.
Hey, PSP, you don't mind me asking a question real quick to Leaf?
What's up?
Go ahead.
Hey, let me ask you something, because we was covering this with Hot Take Kenny last week. Do you think Cat Williams is a top 5 comedian of all time?
Damn.
Also, Leaf, Kenny claimed that Cat Williams is the greatest comedian of all time.
Wow. I would say Cat Williams he still puts out specials, so I understand why he would say that. But I'll give Cat Williams top 10. I'll consider putting him in the top 5 if I had a top 5 to speak of. But I mean, he's definitely top 10 for sure of all time. When you think about the Richard Pryor's, the Red Foxes, it's a guy by the name of Robin Harris. You might remember him. Harris, God rest his soul. He was classic comedy. He was before his time. Obviously Chappelle, obviously Ed, obviously Martin. It's a long list. It's a long list, man. And when you think about those names, they stood on stage, man, for hours and told jokes. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that Cat Williams can't do that, but I think Cat Williams has been definitely very passionate about that. From the time that the Pimp Chronicles came out all the way to now where he is, see where he stands today. But you think about him, you think about the Bernie Macs, the Steve Harveys, the DL, like all of those, man. Like, but he's definitely top 10 for sure. I can't say, I don't know for sure if he's top 5, but he's definitely top 10. Yes.
No. The reason why I think Champ mentioned it because we had the podcast, I think last week. He claimed that Cat Williams is the greatest comedian of all time, and when I asked the question, is Pimp Chronicles better than all the other HBO specials Chris Rock did, like Never Scared and stuff like that? He said, yeah. And I'm
I would say in terms of Chris Rock, I think you could probably make an argument where the line is drawn is from Chappelle to Ed Murphy to
Martin.
To Martin. I think Martin definitely had a decade, but I don't think I valued Martin too much after the 90s was over. I mean, like I definitely valued Eddie for a long time. I definitely valued Dave Chappelle for a long time.
And Champ, let's not forget the other comedians you mentioned. I was watching Andrew Dice Clay for a little bit.
Andrew Dice Clay.
Andrew Dice Clay is wild. Yeah. Andrew Dice Clay and Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
Sam Kinison, who the late great George Carlin, who I watch religiously, and I get a lot of my psyche and my views and the way my talking points are from him. He said, and I quote, Sam Kinison scared the hell out of me because he was onto something, and he was trying to. George Carlin is one of the few comedians that kind of changed his tone like at least 4 different times. He changed comedy like 4 different times. We talking about somebody that had a 50-year run in show business and comedy at a time where there was just like knick-knack jokes and then like things like that, and then like sort of those type of jokes, and then going to what he became from 88, from the time that he passed in 2008. He made politics and talking about real life shit seem funny. You know what I'm saying? So George Carlin, God rest his soul, but his problem was he went up against too much of the law of America too much. Because he talked about a lot of the truths. He was he went toe to toe with religion, and if anybody knows about religion and politics, man, if you go toe to toe with that, you got the FCC on you. You got all these companies going at you. So I mean, yes, John Witherspoon. Pops was hilarious.
Tydrikas, appreciate you, man.
DC Curry was hilarious, man.
Okay, Elroy.
Yeah, Uncle Elroy. Yeah, listen.
The Friday movies.
Oh yeah, the Friday movies was classic. Earthquake. Yeah, but
I mean, you could even argue Jeff Foxworthy, you know.
Yeah, and also let's not forget the late great Chris Farley.
Yes.
Yes, definitely Chris Farley. But in terms of the names that I was mentioning, man, in terms of comedians that we knew that had memorable runs, I would have to say that Cat Williams, he could definitely be top 10 for sure. He could definitely be top 10. So yeah.
Where would you
rank top 5, but top 10.
Where would I rank?
Cat Williams.
Oh, top 11, I will say. And he'd be right at 11. Like I said earlier, when we bring up comedians, a lot of our generation, we remember the black comedians. I had the fortune to have a very, very diverse family. So I listened to every last one of them. I mean, there's a lot of guys that people nowadays don't even remember. A guy by the name of Jerry Crowler that was born in Macomb, Mississippi. He could tell a lot of great jokes. Matter of fact, he used to align himself with the AWA. Go back and listen to some of his content. It's crazy. But, I mean, you have to combine those. You just can't be one-dimensional with the comedy in situations. And plus, people always seem to forget, hey, Bill Cosby, people, regardless of the controversies, Bill Cosby was a great comedian. You got to remember those. You got to remember him. Hell, you got to remember the guy who wrote for Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, Paul Mooney.
Yep.
Paul Mooney. He wrote
these guys. This guy wrote the jokes for these guys to say. I mean, they might have been out in front, but this guy was behind the scenes writing it.
Yes, he was.
So. Yeah, no question about that. I mean, Cat's definitely up there, but when you think about Richard, Eddie, Martin, Robin Harris, Bernie Mac, a lot of other comedians, they got to go up there as well, man.
Yes, he was.
All right. We got 3 more subjects left. I promise, folks, I was going to incorporate more food topics. Which cookie you want? Oreos or Chips Ahoy?
Oh wow! It usually depends on how I'm feeling during the time. I guess if I'm in a shit mood, but if I had to choose one, I'm choosing Oreos.
Champ?
Oreos. I gotta choose the Oreos, especially when you put them on the McFlurries. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. Oreos easily. So Oreo clears in that one. Now this one. Dunkin' Donuts versus Krispy Kreme.
I'll be honest with you. I never had Krispy Kremes a day in my life.
What?
But, I never, not New York. I live in the city in New York. I live in Brooklyn, so this Dunkin' Donuts is all over the places. But Krispy Kremes is a ways to go. I don't think they have a Krispy Kremes in Brooklyn. You got to go probably in the city, and it's heavy traffic in the city.
Go to Penn Station. They got Krispy Kremes there.
Yeah. I think they do have Penn Station is absolute like treacherous, man. Like, but I mean, Penn Station they definitely do got it. But I never actually had them. But so I can't even answer that, man. Like Dunkin' Donuts, only thing I get for Dunkin' Donuts is the frozen drinks, man. I don't really get the donuts from there. So.
Now, Champ, you from the South.
Let me tell you something. I'm going Krispy Kreme. Man, let me tell you something. Columbus, Georgia shut Krispy Kreme down on the day of free donuts came out, bro. We shut them down. When the day comes out where you get a free donut, we literally shut Krispy Kreme down because they ran out of donuts. Shout out to the city of Columbus. Hey, we love Krispy Kreme down south. I done seen dudes literally get into a wreck trying to catch the hotline, bro.
As Charles Barkley always says, and it's true though, when that hot sign is on,
that hot sign come up, it's time. Hey, shout out to Columbus though, Columbus, Georgia. On that day when they was giving away free donuts, they shut Krispy Kreme down. Shout out to my hometown, C-Town, E-Dub. Y'all know what it is.
Krispy Kreme donut.
Just round
them good. That glaze. That's some good donuts, man. All right. Final one. This is a video game one. Leaf, I don't know if you ever played this one. Champ, I don't know if you played this one as well.
Oh my God. You know what? I played the hell out of NBA Live 2005 and 2004. 2005, I played it for PS2, Xbox, and I played it for PC. I loved it that much because the Live the previous year had my favorite player on the cover, which was Vince Carter. 2K, I didn't play 2K around that time, but I heard how good it was, and I'm pretty sure people remember how good that 2K was in the middle of that time. But the 2K that they did ran about during that time was not the basketball 2K. It was the NFL 2K because it was the football.
The one with T.O. on the cover.
Yeah, the one with T.O. on the cover because that one lasted it's still deemed one of the greatest football video games still to this day. So if I had to choose, I was an NBA Live guy during that time. I didn't become a 2K kid to a 2K guy to 2K9. I was an NBA Live kid for sure. During that time because that was like one of the last good NBA Lives too. Because that was the live that was the NBA Live that had the dunk contest. That first featured the dunk contest. You had to do the dunks and all of that. And that's when they started put it in like the after that they started putting it in the playmaking thing because the one with D Wade on the cover was terrible. But I definitely remember that NBA Live. That was one of the best NBA Lives. One of the better NBA Lives that I played. It wasn't too bad, it wasn't too good, but it was playable. There's certain things you tolerate.
That Vince Carter
that one with Vince Carter on the cover. Yeah, that was my favorite one.
But I didn't mind the mellow one, especially when they
Yeah,
incorporated the All-Star Dunk Contest.
yeah.
2K5, I didn't mind 2K5 though. I mean, with Ben
I played it maybe a few times, but most of that year, I always been back to NBA Live because I had a PlayStation at that time and I got rid of my Dreamcast.
Yeah.
And we was just playing NBA Live since really we picked back up NBA Live in 2003 when he put Jason Kidd on the cover, and we was playing it. I was playing it continuously. Like 2K didn't like once Dreamcast died out, 2K died out. Because it died out in 2K2 was like the last one on the Dreamcast, and then I didn't play 2K until 2K9 until I got my Xbox 360. I like, and Live was so terrible after 2005. I was just looking for Live to be good again, and then it wasn't, and I was like, all right, man, I guess I have to give 2K a shot. Been to 2K for the last 15 years.
Leave,
And
I'm telling you, man, the greatest thing, even though y'all could say PlayStation 2 or Xbox, I had the GameCube. I love the Nintendo GameCube. The only reason why I bought it because of WWE Day of Reckoning. They would only show that game on Nintendo GameCube.
Right. I remember that.
I used to play that shit. But NBA Live 05, I love that dunk contest. So I would go the slight edge over 2K. But
I had a PS2 because I could hide it anywhere. Because when they first came out with the Slims, you could hide it anywhere in the house. I used to stash it. I used to stash it way underneath the dresser and tape it to the under portions of the dresser where you had to dig your hand in and get it out.
Right.
That's what I used to do with my PS2. It was the Slim. The Xbox I hated, man, because it was so chunky. It was
chunky. It was chunky.
Yeah.
But definitely. Mark my words, man. I'm telling you. ESPN NFL 2K5, in my opinion, greatest football video game I've ever played in my life.
A lot of people would definitely co-sign that claim. I would say Madden had to take the back burner for years because of that game. Even still to this day, college football was still good. I remember when 2K made college football and hockey and baseball, and they went back to making golf. They made tennis and all of that, man. Like 2K used to make a lot of the sports games back then. A lot of people forgot of. They was in the gloom, man. College hoops. When they made the last college hoops, I was sad to death because when they didn't make another college hoops, and then I had to go to EA, and then they made college basketball. The last one they had was what Blake Griffin was on the cover with that Oklahoma Sooners cover and everything. But yeah, man. Like it was. I was a big sports gaming fan, man. Like so. Yeah, but I realistically, if I wasn't playing sports games, I was playing fighting games because fighting games was like my thing. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. I always like to play.
Gotta go back to Day of Reckoning. I played Day of Reckoning.
Day of Reckoning, yeah. How about WWF No Mercy for the N64?
Yes, I love that one too.
That one, Bring the Pain. A lot of people like Bring the Pain. SmackDown Bring the Pain with Brock Lesnar on it, and SmackDown versus Raw, the first one for
that was good
Xbox.
Too.
Yeah.
Champ, what says you, man? NBA Live 05 or 2K5?
Hey, NBA Live 05. Not only did they have one of the best video games of all time, you knew those NBA Live games came out when I was in high school. So you knew it was time for basketball season, not only when the game came out, but when the soundtrack came out.
Yes.
That's a missing element that we don't see no more with the games or the movies, for that matter. It's the soundtrack, man.
Soundtrack, yeah.
I mean, sometimes
I think NBA Live 2003 actually, they soundtrack actually went platinum.
Yeah. Man, those soundtracks were golden. I mean, and there was so much creativity behind it. It's like you don't see that. I mean, I'm still a gamer. Hey, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see it every now and then on my stories. But there's no originality in games like it was back then. Everybody was competing back then. Nowadays, they putting out the same game.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that concludes the rest of the Sports PSP podcast. Fellas, I appreciate y'all hopping on. Of course, I appreciate Dev, Hoops' podcast, and the rest of the crew for hopping on. Leaf, tell them where to follow you, man.
Follow me at youtube.com/@Leaf4788. Twitter, I'm Leaf4788. I'm pushing a lot of Nets propaganda. And the next signee for the Nets should be Kai Jones, who actually has an interview out explaining why he had the incidents that he had and everything. He had the incidents that he had and how his tenure in Charlotte ended and how he came to asking for a trade in Charlotte because a lot of people thought he had a nervous breakdown. Just to give you some quick tips, his grandmother had passed. He had lost his grandmother, and a lot of people thought he was going crazy because he had colored his hair and he was doing the dance videos. And he just basically explained that he liked to dance. They send him to they issued like a psychiatrist for him and see somebody or whatever. He went to go see him, and he said, I'm fine and everything. And they kind of just took it out of context and kind of ran with it and everything. But he's a good kid, well articulated. He's a very professional. He knows the professional game and everything. He's 22 years old, high level athlete. He dunked on Wemby. Like, come on, man. Like, listen, if you dunk on Wemby, and that was the game that Wemby had one of his worst summer league games, by the way, because he was guarding him. He's very defensive on both ends of the court. By the way, there's a video surfacing of my name. Y'all probably seen it. There was some very, very extreme accusations and claims made on my name. I just want people to know it's not true. We're talking about religious politic type stuff on my name. So for anybody in the chat and anybody that's going to see this, ever refer to me as a hater again, until you've been accused of the stuff that I've been accused of, no longer allowed to call me that at all, man. Like, well, everything that I say is 100% real, and it has context and modern to it. It's just because you don't understand it, that doesn't mean it doesn't have context and it doesn't have fluidity to it. So definitely, I beat those cases, by the way, but those claims, by the way. But it's that video is still up. Shout out to my man Big Ox Bob for helping me out with that case and help me appeal that case. But that video is definitely up. You could probably find it on his page, and you could definitely find my name surfacing around that. So I don't get too deep into that. I gotta get back in the house. I was sitting in the car the whole time doing this shit. So PSP. Appreciate it, champ.
All right, brother.
Hope the Bulldogs crash and burn. Nah, I'm just playing. But see y'all again, man. This football season has been an absolute joke. But definitely looking to see how it's gonna end, man. Teams are starting to hit the nitty gritty. It's Thanksgiving. That means it's past Thanksgiving. Now it's time for teams to get serious and see what type of playoff push and what type of push in the playoffs that they can make late and going into the season, man. Hope y'all guys as well. Special thanks to y'all guys. Especially thankful for y'all guys. Not Thanksgiving, but thankful to all you guys, man. It's been an honor sharing these discourses with y'all, man. I will be back soon, man. Y'all see me again, man.
All right, y'all take it easy. Take it easy.
All right, man.
All right. And of course, last but not least, Undisputed World Champ. Always a pleasure having him on the Sports PSP podcast. Tell him where to follow you at, man.
Undisputed World Champ on TikTok and World Champ _2.0. Excuse me. On Instagram. Working on a huge interview right now. Just gonna tell everybody. Working on a huge interview with Wayne Johnson, the first black quarterback from the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm working on that right now. So that video, I'm trying to figure out everything and get his schedule so I can finally get that interview. He's a friend of the family, and I can't wait to see how that was, him being the first black quarterback, not only in Georgia, but in the SEC.
Absolutely. I know for a fact it's gonna go well, man. I know for a fact it's gonna go well, man. But anyway, folks, Sports PSP, you know where to follow me at. Go like and subscribe to the Sports PSP channel, as well as IG Sports PSP, TikTok Sports PSP 3. Go like and subscribe to my man Champ. Go follow him on TikTok, Instagram, and of course, eventually, we hope we're going to see him on his podcast one day. I know for a fact that he's talking about that.
Yes.
Absolutely. And also go check out my boy Brandon from the Block Podcast. You know, he's got the Throwdown Podcast every Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays for football, Wednesdays for basketball. Go check out all the great content out there. And for that, we is out. Peace.